been executed with such fluidity and grace. Comrade Yi Bai, what is the principle behind this? Dean Jiangming, regaining his composure, looked at Yi Bai at the control console, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. Yi Bai smiled and explained, the principle is not overly complex. I designed a distributed neural network control system for it, with each pair of limbs possessing an independent subprocessor responsible for local motion balance. The main processor functions akin to a cerebellum, coordinating the movements of all subprocessors to create unified gate instructions. Additionally, I employed memory metals and piezoelectric ceramics in the material science aspect, enabling the limbs to simulate the contraction and relaxation of biological muscles, significantly enhancing flexibility and response speed. Upon hearing Yi Bai's explanation, the experts present fell into a state of astonishment once more. Terms like distributed neural networks and memory metals represented cutting-edge technologies, some still in theoretical stages. Yet Yi Bai had seamlessly integrated them and successfully applied them in practice. What was even more incredulous was that this revelation came from a mere freshman. His technological prowess had far surpassed the understanding of all the seasoned experts present. Dean Jiangming reflected on Yi Bai, feeling a surge of emotion. This young man was indeed a prodigy of the Dragon Nation. Now that we've discussed the theory, let us proceed with performance testing. Yi Bai clapped his hands, signaling for the testing to continue. Under his direction, the factory workers drove forklifts, continuously transporting bags of cement weighing 50 kilograms each to the expansive platform on the back of the Skyward Centipede. Soon, thousands of bags formed a small mountain. Yet even under such a staggering load, the Skyward Centipede moved with ease and grace. Its hundreds of limbs navigated the factory floor with remarkable stability, even surpassing its previous speed when it was unburdened, far exceeding the sluggish pace of the original SMPT flatbed truck. The testing personnel rapidly recorded data, ultimately arriving at an astonishing conclusion. The performance metrics of the Skyward Centipede overwhelmingly surpassed those of the original SMPT flatbed truck. Absolutely perfect. Dean Jiangming gazed at the miraculous data report, his hands trembling with excitement. However, he soon identified a point of concern. Comrade Yi Bai, I have another question. Why are there jet nozzles designed on these centipede legs? Could it possibly fly despite its immense weight? Upon hearing this question, the audience in the live stream began to send messages. Right. I want to ask the same. Can this thing really fly? You're joking, right? It weighs thousands of tons. If it could fly, Newton's coffin would be unable to hold it down. Yi Bai, upon hearing this, wore a mysterious smile. Dean Jiang, what do you think inspired the Skyward in the name Skyward Centipede? Dean Jiang was momentarily taken aback. The next moment, Yi Bai snapped his fingers. Flight mode, activate. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening roar, brilliant blue plasma flames erupted from the jet nozzles at the ends of its hundreds of limbs. The Skyward Centipede ascended into the air before the astonished gazes of all present. Dean Jiangming and the experts recoiled in fear, their faces pale. This was no longer mere black technology. It was a miracle, a feat of science that was simply unattainable within the confines of this dimension. If this truly were a living monster, even the legendary 749 Bureau, known for handling supernatural events, would be utterly powerless against it. After a brief period of shock, Dean Jiangming and the experts finally regained their composure from their astonishment. Successful verification. Perfect success. Dean Jiangming approached Yi Bai, grasping his hand tightly, his excitement evident on his face. Comrade Yi Bai, you have once again created a miracle. Although the capabilities demonstrated by the Skyward Centipede had far exceeded their expectations, Dean Jiang still harbored a lingering doubt. Comrade Yi Bai, while the Skyward Centipede is indeed powerful, the weight of the propane-propylene separation tower is daunting. At a staggering 700 tons, the construction alone required special steel equivalent to 100,000 bags of cement. I remain somewhat concerned about whether it can truly withstand such weight. Practice is the only criterion for testing truth, Yi Bai replied confidently with a smile. Dean Jiang, let us proceed to the site. The following day, Yi Bai accompanied Dean Jiang and others on a private aircraft to the super factory of Lonka Institute located along the coast of Lu Province. Upon disembarking, a silver-white giant tower, resembling a mountain, captured Yi Bai's attention. Standing at 138 meters tall, this was the centerpiece of the transportation task, the propane-propylene separation tower. Let us begin. With Dean Jiangming's command, the on-site commander promptly issued instructions via intercom. All units, attention. Lifting operations commence now. Buzzing and creaking filled the air as the 700-ton silver-white giant tower was gradually lifted from its base, inch by painstaking inch. The entire process unfolded at a painfully slow pace. Everyone held their breath, anxiously watching what could only be described as an epic hoisting operation. Time passed, second by second. After more than 3 hours, the separation tower had barely moved a distance of 10 meters. Yi Bai could no longer contain himself and turned to Ding Jiangming, exclaiming, "Ding Jiang, this is incredibly slow. Your crane is inadequate." Upon hearing this, Ding Jiang managed a wry smile. "Do you think I desire this pace? This is the finest crane we could find in the world, each boasting a lifting capacity exceeding 500 tons. There is nothing more advanced than this." "Not necessarily. What if I were to modify them?" "What?" At this suggestion, Ding Jiang's eyes instantly lit up. With Yi Bai's remarkable ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, if he were to retrofit these cranes, wouldn't their efficiency increase exponentially? However, this thought fleetingly crossed his mind before he regained his composure. One must eat a meal bite by bite and travel step by step. We will discuss this later, after we successfully transport the separation tower. Yi Bai merely smiled, choosing not to pursue the topic further. Chapter 291, huh? It can actually fly? This is pure Lovecraftian. The transport officially commenced. The flying centipede, bearing the silvery giant tower, glided out of the Lonka Institute's super factory like a moving mountain. The spectacle was utterly breathtaking. It felt as though they were not transporting industrial equipment, but rather relocating an entire skyscraper. The viewers in the live broadcast were completely captivated by this monumental scene, their comments filled with expressions of astonishment and admiration. Is this truly a feat achievable by humanity? It's magnificent. I feel as though I am not watching a live stream, but rather a Hollywood science fiction blockbuster. Mom asks why I am kneeling to watch my phone. Can the highway bear such a heavy load? Will the surface collapse under the weight? Indeed, what about the bridges? How will they cope with this weight? No bridge could withstand it. Ding Jiang, addressing the camera, half jokingly and half seriously reassured, "Rest assured, for this transport, we have reinforced all roads and bridges along the route to the highest standards. Every inch of pavement and each bridge's load-bearing capacity is tied to the heads of the mayors along the way. There will be no issues." And indeed, the flying centipede proceeded smoothly. Whether traversing smooth asphalt roads or majestic bridges spanning rivers, it moved with the grace of a feather. Its hundreds of jointed legs evenly distributed the terrifying weight, exerting even less pressure on the roadway than a typical heavy truck. The roads had long been cordoned off and cleared of all civilian vehicles by traffic police. Nevertheless, the roadside was still teeming with onlookers drawn by the commotion. As they beheld the flying centipede, resembling a mythical beast, carrying a silvery giant tower as it crawled past, they were left speechless, hastily pulling out their phones to capture this once-in-a-century marvel. "My goodness, what is that? A centipede? What is it carrying? A building? This is absurd. Quick, take a photo. I must share this on social media. I have never witnessed such an extraordinary scene in my life." The transport proceeded exceptionally well. However, just as the flying centipede was about to enter an expansive wetland, an unexpected event occurred. Suddenly, a chorus of bird calls filled the sky. Following that, a massive dark cloud swiftly approached from the distant horizon. "What is that?" Yi Bai furrowed his brow. Ding Jiang, peering through binoculars, instantly paled. It was not clouds at all, but rather thousands of migratory birds. They darkened the sky, flying directly toward the direction of the flying centipede. "This is bad." Cold sweat broke out on Ding Jiang's forehead. For this transport, they had prepared countless contingency plans, considering every possible factor that could affect the journey, including precise forecasts of wind speed and rainfall probability for the next 3 days. Yet, they had completely overlooked the most unpredictable factor: animal migration. How could this happen? A bird expert accompanying them looked at the vast flock overhead, confusion etched on his face. According to our observations over the years, this batch of migratory birds should have passed through the neighboring county. How could they suddenly deviate from their route and end up here? As everyone on site felt helpless and anxious, akin to ants on a hot pan, Ding Jiang's phone rang unexpectedly. It was a call from the official in the neighboring county. "Ding Jiang, I sincerely apologize. We are currently conducting a large-scale infrastructure project that involves blasting operations, which may have startled the migratory birds that were supposed to pass through our area." "What?" Ding Jiang nearly choked on his words. Why did you not report such a significant issue in advance? He felt a surge of anger toward the other party. A local authority had caused such a massive problem just to expedite their project. After hanging up, Ding Jiang appeared despondent, though the reason was discovered. The problem was now even more complex. This wetland served as a crucial resting point for migratory birds, and according to the Wildlife Protection Act, any large-scale project that could potentially harm the ecological environment must be suspended during the bird's stay. This meant they either had to wait here until all the birds had departed, which would take at least 10 days to 2 weeks, or they could risk pushing through. But that would not only cause irreversible ecological damage, but also trigger a significant public relations crisis. With no way forward and no retreat, despair engulfed everyone present. Just then, Yi Bai's voice rang out once more. Ding Jiang, do not worry. As I have mentioned before, since it is called the Flying Centipede, it must be capable of flight. Fly. Everyone present, including the millions of viewers in the live stream, was taken aback by this statement. Although they had previously witnessed the stunning sight of the Flying Centipede's front half lifting off the ground during factory testing, it had been under a light load. Now, the centipede bore a towering weight of 700 tons. Could something so heavy possibly take flight? This exceeded all physical comprehension. Are you joking? How could this be possible? A few thousand tons soaring through the air? Not even God could accomplish such a feat. Yet, Yi Bai ignored the doubts of the crowd. Activate flying mode, full power. Boom. A deafening roar, 100 times more terrifying than before, reverberated through the heavens. The plasma engines at the ends of the centipede's hundreds of legs erupted simultaneously, casting forth a dazzling and blinding blue flame. The ground trembled violently. The air screamed in frenzy. Under the influence of a terrifying thrust strong enough to tear everything apart, the steel behemoth, carrying the silver giant tower, indeed began to rise. Inch by inch, from the ground. At that moment, time seemed to stand still. Everyone gazed upward, wide-eyed, witnessing this scene as though a myth had descended upon reality. A colossal entity weighing thousands of tons defied the laws of gravity, floating majestically in midair with an awe-inspiring presence. Subsequently, a vast shadow enveloped the earth, instilling an indescribable and suffocating sense of oppression. Chapter 292, Undertaking New Business, Modifying the Super Crane. This transcended mere science fiction. It was pure Lovecraftian essence. The aerial centipede hovered steadily above a flock of migratory birds below, its passage silent and undisturbing to the tranquil wetlands. Only when the steel behemoth vanished beyond the distant horizon did the onlookers emerge from their stupor of astonishment. At last, before nightfall, the airborne centipede successfully reached its destination, a super factory of Lonka Institute located in another province. The moment the enormous separation tower was precisely placed onto its designated pedestal, both the expert workers on site and the millions of viewers witnessing the event felt a surge of profound pride and accomplishment. We succeeded. President Jiang Ming grasped Yi Bai's hand with overwhelming emotion, tears streaming down his face. With the task completed to perfection, President Jiang, being a man of his word, promptly fulfilled the contract by transferring the remaining 200 million in payments to Yi Bai's company account. Comrade Yi Bai, President Jiang steadied his emotions, his eyes brimming with anticipation regarding the order for the super crane modifications. Yi Bai smiled slightly. This deal was assured. No problem. A flat rate of 350 million. No problem. President Jiang agreed without haggling. I will promptly arrange for the finance department to transfer a 30 million deposit. With the hefty deposit of 105 million from Lonka Institute in hand, Yi Bai returned to the cutting-edge technology factory in the capital, thoroughly satisfied. Without a moment's pause, he dedicated all his energy to the development of firefighting drones. In just 3 days, a groundbreaking firefighting apparatus was officially born from his efforts. With sleek and powerful contours reminiscent of a fierce dragon, it gleamed in fiery red. Beneath its wings, a series of technologically advanced hive-like launch nests were attached. Let us call it the Yinglong H60. With everything in place, Yi Bai commenced another live broadcast. The fans who had eagerly awaited his return instantly erupted with excitement upon seeing him online again. He is back. Yi Shun is about to unveil something new. Quick, let me see what earth-shattering technology he has in store this time. Yi Bai cleared his throat and spoke into the camera with a tone full of mystery. Good evening, everyone. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a revolutionary firefighting product developed by our company, Yinshao Technology. As he spoke, he slowly turned the camera towards the imposing Yinglong H60 behind him. The moment the formidable drone appeared on screen, the live chat exploded with astonishment. What the hell? Is this a drone? You call this a firefighting drone? That design, that aerodynamic layout. This is clearly an attack drone. Wait, Yinglong H60? ISNT the H code a reference to bombers? Yi Shun, have you created an unmanned bomber? The audience erupted in laughter, the chat flooded with playful banter. Yi Bai, feigning seriousness, addressed the camera. Hey, you can joke about many things, but not this. I warn you not to slander. I, Yi Bai, run a law-abiding civil firefighting equipment company. It just happens to have a slight military qualification. His overly defensive explanation only drew more laughter from the audience. After engaging in light-hearted banter, Yi Bai began formally introducing the capabilities of the Yinglong H60. Everyone, despite its fierce appearance, it was truly designed for firefighting and rescue. As he spoke, he operated a tablet. The Yinglong H60, rather than being merely a drone, is akin to an airborne mother nest. It can carry up to 100 small subsidiary drones within its belly. These drones can be equipped with various functional modules tailored to different fire scenarios. For instance, it can eject dry ice to extinguish electrical fires, spray high-pressure mist for ordinary fires, or deploy dry powder fire-extinguishing grenades for oil fires. Moreover, it can accurately deliver medical supplies to provide life support for those trapped. In normal circumstances, these subsidiary drones recharge and replenish supplies within the Yinglong H60. The mother nest can patrol the skies above the city continuously, ready to respond at the first sign of fire, achieving a three-dimensional, all-encompassing, and saturated assault on the blaze. Oh my, an airborne mother nest. Saturated assault. Yi Shun, are you sure you didn't design a mothership from StarCraft? Incredible. With this, no towering inferno or forest fire poses a problem. This is true cutting-edge technology. Yi Shun, forever the god. As the excitement in the live broadcast surged, Yi Bai flashed a charming smile at the camera. Everyone, brace yourselves. It's time to witness a miracle. Yinglong H60, vertical takeoff. Boom. With a thunderous roar, the four massive rotors began to spin rapidly, creating a powerful gust of wind. Under the gaze of countless viewers, the black steel dragon steadily ascended vertically from the ground, soaring into the heavens. When it reached several hundred meters high, it transitioned into a steady cruising mode. Its immense and imposing body hovered silently above the capital, resembling a mythical guardian beast awakening from ancient lore, surveying the entire city with its authoritative gaze. At that moment, the live chat erupted into chaos. I can't believe it. It's flying. It really took off. This scene is beyond incredible. What a sense of security. With this watching over us, I feel so much safer at night. Fire departments in Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, come see this. Stop wasting time and come procure from Yi Shun. We want our own guardian beast. In an instant, countless viewers frantically tagged the official accounts of their respective city's fire departments in the comments, urging them to introduce the Yinglong H60. Chapter 293, the Yinglong H60 Firefighting Drone. Yi Bai gazed at the rapidly rising excitement levels in the back end, a satisfied smile gracing his face. He anticipated a flurry of orders from fire departments nationwide to come pouring in like snowflakes. However, unexpectedly, instead of receiving calls from fire departments, he was greeted by several police cars flashing their lights. Uniformed officers stepped out of the vehicles, and at the forefront was Su Ning. She had received reports from the public about an unidentified flying object operating in a no-fly zone. Who is in charge here? Who authorized this flight? Are you not aware that this is the capital, a restricted airspace? Did you file a flight plan with the air traffic control? Hearing her voice, Yi Bai exited the control room. Noticing Su Ning's stern demeanor, he promptly approached her. I apologize, officer. This marks our inaugural test flight in the capital city. And as newcomers, we are still unfamiliar with the protocols. When Su Ning discerned that the visitor was Yi Bai, she was momentarily taken aback. The formerly stern expression on her delicate face was now filled with astonishment and helplessness. Why him? She felt overwhelmed. If it had been anyone else, she would have promptly adhered to the regulations. Yet, it was Yi Bai, a figure who elicited both her admiration and frustration. Imposing a fine seemed somewhat inappropriate for a friend, while refraining from doing so would undermine her duty, as many colleagues and viewers were observing. And such favoritism would lead to detrimental consequences. Observing Su Ning's internal struggle, Yi Bai appeared nonchalant. He shrugged and smiled, saying, It's all right, let things unfold as they should. If a fine is warranted, so be it. If detention is necessary, I will comply. After all, a prince is held to the same standard as a commoner. I must set an example. His words, spoken with such candor, only served to deepen Su Ning's dilemma. She shot him an indignant glare. You think you know the law? Aren't you something? Just as Su Ning found herself in a bind, a sudden epiphany struck her mind, and she thought of someone. Stepping aside, she swiftly dialed Secretary De Kong's number. The call connected promptly, and Su Ning succinctly briefed Secretary De Kong on the situation. After a brief silence, Secretary De Kong erupted into hearty laughter. Ha ha ha, Su Ning, you've inadvertently caught one of your own. After hanging up, Su Ning turned to Yi Bai, saying with irritation, Just wait. Shortly thereafter, a sleek black Hongqi sedan sped to a halt at the factory entrance. The door swung open, and Secretary De Kong alighted. Upon seeing the tense atmosphere, he immediately grasped the situation. He approached Yi Bai and Su Ning with a broad smile, withdrawing a pass marked with a red seal from his pocket and presenting it to Su Ning. "Ah, Captain Su. It appears that the flood has washed away the Dragon King's temple," Secretary de Kong lamented. "I was so preoccupied with work that I forgot to deliver Yi Bai's flight pass for testing the firefighting equipment in our Jinghai district. And you caught him in the act. This is on me. This is on me." Yi Bai watched Secretary de Kong's masterful performance, silently commending him for his understanding of social dynamics. This deft maneuver of retroactively providing the pass not only offered him an escape route, but also preserved Su Ning's dignity while legitimizing the procedure. With the pass in hand, the matter was resolved. Su Ning returned the pass to Secretary de Kong, admonishing, "Next time, be sure to report in advance, even with the pass." "Absolutely, absolutely." Yi Bai nodded vigorously. "What new marvel have you conjured up this time?" Secretary de Kong inquired, his curiosity piqued as he gazed at the imposing Yinglong H-60 soaring above. Yi Bai smiled. "Secretary de Kong, as fate would have it, I was just about to test its combat capabilities. Why not stay with Captain Su and observe?" "Oh, that sounds splendid." Secretary de Kong responded with enthusiasm. However, he reconsidered and waved his hand. "No rush, no rush. Such a remarkable apparatus should not be wasted on just the two of us. I will summon our Jinghai District Fire Bureau Chief Zhao Ming to bring along a few key personnel for a thorough observation and learning experience." With that, he stepped aside to make a call. Soon, Chief Zhao Ming arrived in a flurry, accompanied by several young firefighters. Once everyone was gathered, Yi Bai wasted no time. "Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now commence testing the disaster simulation mode of the Yinglong H-60. As his words echoed, a pre-constructed mock building, designated for firefighting drills, erupted into flames, thick smoke billowing forth. "Fire confirmed. Activating disaster mode." The enormous hatch of the Yinglong H-60 slowly opened, and in a breathtaking display, hundreds of small drones surged forth like a swarm of bees from their mothership. They swiftly organized into 3 formations, methodically advancing towards the blazing mock building. The first formation consisted of firefighting drones equipped with high-pressure water cannons, precisely hovering at various windows, unleashing powerful torrents of water to effectively suppress the flames. The second formation comprised reconnaissance and evacuation drones, deftly navigating through the smoke. Equipped with infrared light detectors that transmitted real-time imagery and potential locations of trapped individuals back to Yi Bai's control screen. Simultaneously, they broadcast evacuation instructions through built-in loudspeakers, guiding occupants to exit in an orderly fashion. The third formation featured transport drones carrying medical emergency kits, hovering in safe zones, ready to deliver supplies at a moment's notice should any injured individuals be rescued. From the moment the fire was detected to the deployment of the drone swarm and the initial control of the blaze, the entire operation took less than 3 minutes. All present, including Secretary de Kong, Chief Zhao Ming, and the seasoned firefighters, were left utterly astounded by the scene before them. They gaped in disbelief, their minds blank, as they watched the drone brigade, an ironclad legion, extinguish the inferno with an almost overwhelming, unreasonable efficiency. Chapter 294. A major fire in Chaoyang District. Drone activation. Just as everyone remained entranced by the unparalleled prowess of the Yinglong H-60, a sudden, urgent alarm pierced the air. "Report to headquarters. Report to headquarters. A fire alarm has been received. A severe fire has erupted in neighboring Chaoyang District. The fire hazard level has reached level 2. Repeat. The fire hazard level has reached level 2. What? Level 2 fire." Upon hearing this news, the expressions of everyone present shifted dramatically. Secretary de Kong was momentarily stunned, seizing Zhao Ming's walkie-talkie and demanding, "Are you certain? Where did this level 2 fire originate? This is the capital. How could such a serious incident occur out of nowhere?" A level 2 fire is classified as significantly severe, typically indicating extensive spread and substantial risk of property loss and casualties. In a city as tightly secured as the capital, the occurrence of such an event is nothing short of astonishing. "Secretary, the specifics remain unclear. The alarm call came from a university in Chaoyang District, claiming an explosion on campus, and the fire is out of control." "A university? An explosion? Out of control?" Chief Zhao Ming grew anxious. "Which school? What is the exact location?" However, before the dispatcher could respond, Yi Bai had already made a swift decision. Saving lives is akin to extinguishing fires. Every second counts. Transitioning to combat mode immediately. Target: location of the fire in Chaoyang District. Engage at maximum speed to eliminate the threat. Understood. In the sky, the formidable black steel dragon pivoted sharply, its 4 rotor groups roaring to life, producing a piercing shriek as it transformed into a streak of black lightning, racing towards Chaoyang District. The viewers in the live stream also felt a surge of tension. No way is this real? Just finished testing and now heading into combat? Level 2 fire. And in a university. Let us hope there are no casualties. Go, Yi-Bai. Let the leaders of the capital take a good look at what true technological rescue means. With the support of the Yinglong H-60 supersonic flight, it took merely a few minutes to arrive at the scene of the fire. However, when the drone transmitted high-definition images from the site in real time, everyone was left in stunned silence. The footage revealed a fierce blaze raging, with thick smoke billowing into the sky. Yet, the location of the fire was not a classroom or laboratory, but rather a vast square at the heart of the school. Even more astonishing, there was no sign of the chaos and panic one might expect. Instead, hundreds of students were orderly evacuating from the adjacent teaching buildings, each covering their heads and skillfully crouching along the edges of the square. The scene resembled more of a drill than a fire emergency. Yi-Bai, observing this bizarre spectacle on the screen, was filled with confusion. Nevertheless, since there was a fire, it was imperative to extinguish it first. The firefighting team sprang into action. With a command, dozens of drones equipped with high-pressure water cannons descended from the sky, like divine reinforcements, hovering precisely above the inferno. In an instant, torrents of powerful water cascaded down, forming a colossal net that enveloped the raging flames from all directions. The teachers and students escaping in the square were taken aback by the sudden appearance of these sci-fi drones, which unleashed a vigorous deluge upon the fire, leaving everyone astonished. What on earth is that? A UFO? How incredibly futuristic. Is this the new firefighting equipment hired by the school? Amidst their shocked discussions, the once formidable blaze was quelled in less than 30 seconds, thanks to the Yinglong H-60's astonishing efficiency, leaving only debris and curling wisps of smoke in its wake. The fire was extinguished. However, just as Yi-Bai was about to instruct the drone to conduct further reconnaissance, an enraged roar erupted from the ground below. Who did this? Who the hell extinguished my fire? We were in the midst of a firefighting drill. The fire is gone in the middle of our practice. How are we supposed to continue? The voice belonged to Gong Rui, the director of the Chaoyang District Fire Department. Upon hearing this, Yi-Bai was momentarily taken aback. A drill? He glanced at the screen displaying the furious Director Gong, then at the equally bewildered Secretary De Kong and Director Zhao Ming beside him. As 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Are you kidding me? All this time, was it just a case of miscommunication? This is hilarious. A drill. It was just a drill. Praying for the psychological trauma of Director Gong in this moment. Director Gong, I had the biggest fire prepared, with the actors ready. And you just ripped up the script? Yi Shun, I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with this. I'm just a well-meaning firefighter passing by. Watching the live stream filled with mocking comments, Yi-Bai felt utterly speechless. He promptly instructed the drone fleet to return to the mothership. And with a sense of trepidation, he, along with Secretary De Kong and Director Zhao Ming, prepared to explain to this unfortunate colleague. Meanwhile, Director Gong Rui was still seething over his meticulously planned drill being disrupted. Director Zhao, Secretary De Kong, what brings you two here? Though Gong Rui was furious, he immediately donned a respectful demeanor in front of the city leaders. Director Zhao Ming was equally embarrassed. He pointed at the Yinglong H-60, which was slowly descending from the sky, and then at Yi-Bai, offering a wry smile as he explained, Old Gong, I apologize, this is a misunderstanding. After a series of explanations, Director Gong finally grasped the situation's context. He looked at Yi-Bai, then at the futuristic drone mothership, his expression shifting from anger to astonishment, to shock, and finally settling into envy. So it was the brilliant work of Comrade Yi-Bai? While he was still conducting drills in the most traditional manner, Yi-Bai had already brought futuristic technology into reality. How did such a disparity between individuals arise? Yi-Bai stepped forward, a look of sincerity on his face, and said, Director Gong, today's incident was indeed our fault. I sincerely apologize to you and all the firefighters participating in the drill. Observing Yi-Bai's earnest demeanor, Gong Rui felt much of his anger dissipate. He waved his hand dismissively, but then his eyes glinted with a sudden idea. No need for apologies. However, Comrade Yi-Bai, since you have disrupted our Chaoyang district drill, you must provide us with some compensation. Compensation? Yi-Bai was taken aback. Of course. Gong Rui pointed at the recently landed Yinglong H-60. If you wish for my forgiveness, then we, Chaoyang district, must be the first to be equipped with this drone. His plan was meticulous. While the drill may have failed, acquiring such a powerful tool would be a tremendous gain. However, no sooner had he spoken than Secretary De Kong interjected. visibly agitated. Chapter 295. Are you insane? One drone costs so much. Hey, old Gong, this isn't fair. Secretary de Kong stepped forward, positioning himself between the two. There must be a sense of order in this. Comrade Yi Bai's factory is located in our Jinghai district. The first Yinglong should rightfully be equipped by our Jinghai district fire department. That is not acceptable. Gong Rui stood his ground. Secretary de Kong, you cannot say that. Today's incident was a grievance for our Chaoyang district, and Comrade Yi Bai should compensate us first. Besides, who ultimately gets to use this equipment will still depend on Comrade Yi Bai's own decision, right? With that, both men turned their gazes toward Yi Bai. Yi Bai found himself in a sudden battleground, feeling overwhelmed. Ultimately, he recognized that today's incident was indeed his fault. After a moment of contemplation, he made his decision. Director Gong, Secretary de Kong, please do not argue. Today, we indeed made a mistake and disrupted the Chaoyang district drill. As compensation, I will grant the priority usage rights of the first Yinglong H60 to the Chaoyang district fire department. Upon hearing this, Gong Rui's face broke into a broad smile. Meanwhile, Secretary de Kong appeared dejected. Just as he was about to voice his concerns, Yi Bai quickly added, however, Secretary de Kong, do not be anxious. I assure you, within a month, I will craft a brand new firefighting product for the Jinghai District Fire Department, one whose performance will be on par with the Yinglong. You will be thoroughly satisfied. With Yi Bai's promise, Secretary de Kong's expression shifted from gloomy to sunny, and he nodded in satisfaction. With the ownership issue resolved, the next topic was naturally the price. Director Gong Rui rubbed his hands together, his face filled with anticipation as he inquired, Comrade Yi Bai, regarding the price of the Yinglong H60. Yi Bai raised 3 fingers. 3 million? Gong Rui tentatively asked. Though this price was steep, it was not entirely unmanageable. Yi Bai simply smiled and shook his head. 33 million. Gong Rui's heart sank, and his voice trembled slightly. When he saw Yi Bai still shaking his head, he was utterly flabbergasted. Yi Bai, observing his expression, calmly revealed a figure. 300 million. How much? Director Gong Rui pointed at Yi Bai, his voice cracking. 300 million. Why don't you just go rob a bank? He understood that this was high-tech equipment and would undoubtedly be costly. But he never imagined it would be priced so exorbitantly. However, upon hearing this quote, Secretary de Kong was suddenly delighted. Alas, dear Gong, a gentleman's word is his bond. Once given, it cannot be retracted. Just moments ago, you declared your intent to be the first to equip yourself, and now you cannot go back on your word. Gong Rui's expression instantly soured, transforming into one of despair. Gazing at Yi Bai, and then at the alluring Yinglong H60, he found himself caught in a battle between desire and reason. Ultimately, his longing for advanced equipment triumphed over his rationality. Very well, I shall sign. After affixing his signature to the contract worth 300 million, Director Gong felt a buzzing in his head. Dazed, he returned to the bureau and spent the entire afternoon staring at the contract, his mind consumed with how to justify this exorbitant procurement cost to the district leaders. 300 million for a drone? To utter such words would surely lead others to believe he had lost his senses. As night fell, he wearily prepared to leave for home. However, upon stepping outside the fire bureau, he caught a glimpse of an unusual red glow flickering on the distant horizon. Thick smoke billowing from the top of a towering residential building. A fire. His professional instincts kicked in, and he tensed immediately. Upon closer inspection, his heart sank. The burning building was in the renowned, affluent area of Xinghebei. The residents there were either wealthy or noble, their airs lofty and pretentious. Not even a fire truck could enter without rigorous scrutiny. This was disastrous. Gong Rui slapped his thigh, realizing the severity of the situation. If the fire could not be contained and significant damage ensued, he, as the fire chief, would bear the brunt of the blame. Quick, assemble everyone. We must respond immediately. Without a moment to lose, he dashed back to the bureau and sounded the alarm. Several fire trucks roared out of the gate, racing towards Xinghebei. Predictably, when the fire brigade arrived at the community entrance, they were halted by a closed automatic barrier. A few sharply dressed security guards ambled out from their booth, wearing practiced smiles, yet showing no intention of opening the gate. Apologies, leaders, but it seems our remote control for the barrier is malfunctioning, said a man who appeared to be the security captain with a leisurely demeanor. Malfunctioning. Gong Rui was nearly beside himself with rage, pointing at the blazing building and shouting, "Do you not see the fire? Lives are at stake. Open the gate this instant. Please, there's no need to rush." The security captain replied calmly, pulling out a walkie-talkie and feigning an attempt to press the manual button. "Oh dear, it seems this button is unresponsive as well." As he spoke, he covertly cast sidelong glances, seemingly awaiting some unseen command. Those agonizing minutes of delay were invaluable in the face of a fire rescue. Ram the gate. Boom. The massive fire truck crashed through the fragile barrier, forcing its way into the community. However, new troubles arose. As the firefighters charged towards the burning unit with hoses and equipment, they were obstructed by a locked electronic access door. No matter how they rang the bell, there was no response from within. Quick, use the breaching tools. The firefighters hurriedly prepared to force the door open, while the flames above continued to spread. And amidst the billowing smoke, one could faintly hear the desperate cries of those trapped inside. Gong Rui stood below, watching the chaotic scene unfold, feeling as frantic as an ant on a hot stove. Just then his phone chimed. He instinctively pulled it out to see a message from Yi Bai demanding payment. Director Gong, regarding the 300 million order, when would it be convenient to arrange the deposit? Upon reading the message, Gong Rui froze for a moment before slapping his forehead. Of course, how could I have forgotten that powerful tool? He immediately called for the Yinglong H-60. The aircraft soared into the sky once more, transforming into a streak of black lightning as it sped towards the fire. In less than a minute, the formidable machine circled above Xinghe Bay. Target locked. Fire suppression team, engage. Chapter 296, Disaster Strikes. This time, it's a serious blaze. Dozens of drones shot forth from the mothership like arrows, precisely targeting the burning floors. A powerful deluge of water descended from above, swiftly dousing the rampant flames. The firefighters, previously stymied by the access barriers and the panicked residents below, stood in stunned silence, witnessing a scene reminiscent of a science fiction film. In the face of the Yinglong H-60's extraordinary efficiency, what appeared to be a seemingly insurmountable fire was extinguished in less than 5 minutes. Director Gong stared at the extinguished flames, then glanced at the payment message from Yi Bai, feeling a mix of emotions. Perhaps this 300 million wasn't such a grievous expenditure after all. Taking a deep breath, he quietly tucked his phone back into his pocket. This funding must be procured by any means necessary. The following morning, Yi Bai was awakened in the factory's lounge by the urgent ringing of his phone. It was Director Gong calling. Hello? Director Gong, what brings you to call so early? Yi Bai asked, still groggy. Comrade Yi Bai, I cannot express my gratitude enough. Gong Rui's voice crackled with barely contained excitement. I will have the final payment sent to you today. Huh. Yi Bai was taken aback by this sudden enthusiasm. What was happening? Just yesterday, he had seemed utterly despondent, and today he sounded as if he'd won the lottery. Director Gong, what is going on? Don't say another word. No explanations needed. Gong Rui interrupted excitedly. From now on, you shall be our esteemed guest at the Chaoyang District Fire Bureau. Rest assured, we will treat your Yinglong as a prized possession. Without waiting for Yi Bai to respond, he hung up the phone in a flurry of excitement. Yi Bai stood there, bewildered. What had sparked this transformation in Director Gong? Was it possible that the 300 million could be reimbursed by insurance? Filled with curiosity, he absent-mindedly scrolled through Douyin to catch up on the news. As soon as he opened the app, a top trending video popped up. A towering inferno in Chaoyang District. Mysterious sci-fi drones descend to the rescue. The footage depicted the scene of the Xinghe Bay fire from the previous night. The videographer was evidently a nearby resident. Though the camera wobbled, it still captured the breathtaking moment. In the video, flames erupted from the skyscraper's peak, painting half the night sky red. Just as all seemed lost, a massive, dragon-like aircraft appeared from nowhere, hovering above the blaze. Moments later, dozens of smaller drones darted forth like a swarm of bees, raining down from the sky. And within minutes, the inferno was completely extinguished. The entire sequence was filled with the visual impact of a science fiction film. My heavens, is this real? Not just movie special effects. Has our nation's firefighting technology advanced to this level? Exclaimed one viewer. Incredibly impressive. Such a sense of security. This is like a real-life guardian deity. Chimed another. Is this the latest creation from Yi Bai? I can't think of anyone else capable of such brilliance. Yi Bai? Yi Bai, come forth and claim your credit. Is this your doing? A video casually recorded by a passerby garnered over 1 million likes within mere hours and reached an astonishing number of shares, igniting a frenzy across the internet. It is no wonder that Director Gong Rui appeared invigorated today. However, Yi Bai felt a twinge of incredulity. Despite his own diligent efforts in live streaming, showcasing, and explaining, he could only muster a few 100,000 likes at his peak. Yet, a random bystander's video effortlessly surpassed 1 million likes? Where is the justice in that? But soon, a wave of immense joy surged within him. The familiar system notification echoed in his mind, resounding like a tidal wave. This time, due to its authenticity, unexpectedness. An occurrence in the heart of the capital during a fire rescue. The social impact and the shock it incited among the populace far surpassed any previous drills or tests. Ultimately, when the numbers on the system panel ceased to fluctuate, Yi-Bai was astonished to discover that his shock value had skyrocketed past the staggering threshold of 1 billion. He was now prosperous. He leapt from his bed, exhilarated, and raised his fist in triumph. He could finally unleash his potential and embark on grand endeavors. Just as his excitement peaked, he remembered that the flying centipede had yet to be submitted to the system. He promptly chose to submit it. Ding! The system has detected that the host has completed the modifications and upgrades of the flying centipede SMPT flatbed vehicle. Vehicle rating in progress. Rating completed. This vehicle meets the C-Class standard. Congratulations, host. System upgrade task progress. 110. Reward distribution in progress. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a chance to randomly draw a master-level skill. Would you like to begin the draw immediately? Without hesitation, Yi-Bai selected yes. A colossal, technologically advanced virtual roulette materialized in his mind. The roulette was densely populated with an array of skills, ranging from master-level culinary arts, master-level painting, to master-level hacking techniques and proficiency in firearms. Start. With a mere thought, the roulette began to spin rapidly, ultimately slowing to a stop at an unassuming square. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have acquired master-level linguistics. Skill description. The host will possess unparalleled linguistic talent and communication skills, enabling effortless imitation of languages and accents from around the world, and articulating the most appropriate and persuasive words for various occasions and audiences, inducing a sense of trust and warmth in others. Master-level eloquence? Yi-Bai stroked his chin, pondering the utility of this skill. While it seemed somewhat superfluous, it could certainly prove beneficial. At least he would no longer fret about what to say or fear making mistakes during future speeches. As he contemplated his new skill, a hearty laugh resonated from the factory entrance. Ha! Brother Yi-Bai, I've come to pick you up. Dragon Hantian strode in with a vigorous demeanor, radiating vitality. Clearly invigorated by recent good fortune, Yi-Bai greeted him with a smile. The military exercise is about to commence. Dragon Hantian clapped Yi-Bai on the shoulder, his eyes brimming with excitement. Let us go to the Zhuri Nuclear Combat Training Ground. Today, I'll let you witness a spectacular show. As they walked outside, Dragon Hantian spoke confidently. In this year's grand military competition, our Southern Theater has placed all its bets on you. Everything you've modified will be utilized. I dare say, first place in this year's competition will undoubtedly belong to our Southern Theater. Upon hearing this, Yi-Bai felt a surge of enthusiasm. He too was curious to see just how formidable the cutting-edge products he had created would perform on a genuine simulated battlefield. Chapter 297. The Grand Military Competition begins. Each theater readies for action. By the time Yi-Bai arrived at the Zhuri Nuclear Combat Training Ground, dusk had settled. This venue is the pinnacle of military exercise arenas in the Dragon Nation, where every inch of land has borne witness to the clash of steel and the strategic battles of cutting-edge tactics. Under the guidance of a colonel, Yi-Bai entered the Core Command Center, resembling a vast dome. On the immense circular screen, streams of data cascaded like waterfalls, from satellite imagery to unit coordinates. From real-time battlefield communications to logistical supply updates, the entire nerve center of the training ground converged here. Hundreds of personnel clad in various military uniforms busily attended to their respective posts. At the center of the command center, 5 imposing figures surrounded a massive holographic sand table. They were the supreme commanders overseeing the 5 major theaters of the Dragon Nation. Commander Nya from the Central Theater, Commander Peng from the Southern Theater, Commander Lei from the Eastern Theater, Commander Lin from the Western Theater, and Commander Li from the Northern Theater. The 5 generals gathered together, their presence exuding the gravitas of seasoned warriors and strategists, causing the atmosphere in the command hall to thicken with intensity. Upon seeing Yi-Bai's arrival, Commander Nya and Commander Peng subtly nodded in acknowledgement. Commander Lin from the Western Theater was the first to speak. A look of deep concern etched on his face as he directed his gaze toward Commander Li of the Northern Theater. Old Li, you must go easy on us this time. Our Western Theater is thinly staffed, and our troops from the mountain valleys cannot withstand the iron tide of your joint military exercises. Enough of that. Commander Li from the Northern Theater shot back, his eyes narrowing. Old Lin, are you trying to play the pity card? Who was it that stealthily eliminated 2 of my combined brigades during the last competition? I had to endure my chief of staff's laughter for a full 3 months after that. The banter elicited hearty laughter from everyone. Even Commander Nya, who was typically stern, allowed a smile to grace his lips. At that moment, the usually composed Commander Lei from the Eastern Theater leisurely interjected, You all should stop the theatrics. The true star of this year is not us. Commander Lei's tone carried a hint of amusement. Old Peng, I've heard that your Southern Theater has concealed a secret weapon this time. Why not reveal it for all to see, lest we be blindsided by defeat later? At this proclamation, all eyes turned to Commander Peng. He quickly waved his hands, feigning a look of trepidation. Oh, Commander Lei, please don't flatter me. What secret weapon could we possibly have in the South? It's merely an upgrade of our conventional equipment. Compared to your Eastern Theater's formidable joint maritime and aerial combat system, we are far behind. If we can secure a place in the top 3 this year, I'll be grateful. His words were meticulously crafted, exuding extreme humility. However, the assembled commanders were astute enough to discern the underlying implications. Listen. Commander Lin from the West quickly caught on. Old Lei's tactic of diverting attention is masterful. He's trying to push Old Peng out to be the target of our fire. Exactly. Commander Li from the North slammed the table in agreement. Every year, it's you Easterners who take first place, leaving us with no explanations for our subordinates. This year, our goal is clear: unite and topple the reigning champions. Old Peng, being called out, merely smiled enigmatically, neither confirming nor denying, masterfully deflecting the conversation. In the command center, the commanders engaged in a lively exchange, their words sharp and playful, transforming the atmosphere into one of fervor. Throughout this exchange, Yi Bai, standing quietly behind Commander Peng and Commander Nya, listened intently, observing it all. A secret weapon? Indeed. There is one. Moreover, it is far more terrifying than any of you can imagine. Subsequently, a group of individuals arrived at the operations department, which is specifically responsible for tactical simulations and their execution. Before even crossing the threshold, an almost palpable scent of gunpowder assaulted their senses, so intense that it felt as though it could be detected from outside. Inside the operations department, the atmosphere starkly contrasted with the calm of the command center. It resembled a powder keg on the brink of explosion. Dozens of major generals from various war zones gathered, not for amicable tactical discussions, but rather to form a sharply defined encirclement. A group of senior officers surrounded a short-statured individual, their faces flushed with anger, emotions running high. Long Guangji, you scoundrel! I swear I will tear you apart today. Last year, my amphibious landing brigade was conducting landing exercises, and you directly called for orbital weapon coverage, declaring that our forces had been struck by a meteorite, resulting in total annihilation. What kind of nonsense is that? Shouted one major general, furiously pounding the table. My troops had just spent 3 days and nights on a train descending from the plateau, and the lads hadn't even had a warm meal. Yet you, Long Guangji, determined our assembly point's coordinates were exposed and dropped a tactical nuclear bomb on us. When the simulated mushroom cloud rose, half of my combat personnel were immediately disqualified. Who am I supposed to appeal to? Amidst the rising tide of accusations, Long Hantian from the Southern Theater was particularly incensed. He shoved his way through the crowd, pointing at the man in the center of the encirclement, his eyes nearly ablaze. Enough of this. What you all experienced is nothing compared to what I endured. Long Hantian bellowed. The year before last, during the grand competition, that rascal Long Guangji, under the guise of a logistical maintenance worker, infiltrated my command center the night before the exercise and planted a locator the size of a grain of rice beneath my map. As soon as the exercise began, less than 10 minutes in, alarms for a decapitation operation rang out, and my entire command center, along with myself, was completely wiped out. It became the biggest joke of that year's military exercise. Long Guangji, mark my words, I have remembered this debt for 2 years. This time, I will capture you alive and hang you from the flagpole of our Southern Theater, so you can taste the humiliation yourself. In the midst of this fervent denunciation, Yi Bai finally discerned the focal point of the tumult, the renowned genius major general of the Eastern Theater, Long Guangji. He was indeed not tall, and appeared somewhat diminutive among the towering generals, with a simple buzz cut and an expression that bore a hint of harmlessness, even a touch of apology. He seemed almost embarrassed for the trouble he had caused. Faced with the fury of his colleagues, Long Guangji displayed no signs of panic. Instead, he spoke in a slow, even somewhat pedagogical tone. Everyone, my old comrades, let us calm down. I admit that my methods in the past have been somewhat unconventional. However, my actions have always been for your own good, aimed at enhancing the overall combat capability of our dragon country's military. Consider this: the battlefield of the future is ever-changing. Will the enemy adhere to rules and ethics? No. They will be more cunning and ruthless than I. If you cannot even defend against my little tricks during training, how will you contend with any real adversaries on the battlefield? His words elevated all his despicable actions to the strategic level of preparing the military, leaving no room for rebuttal. The attending major generals were momentarily taken aback by his twisted logic, momentarily silenced. Enough of this nonsense. Long Hantian was the first to snap back, spitting vehemently as he pointed an accusing finger at Long Guangji. Stop with your empty rhetoric. Let me tell you, Long Guangji. This time, your Eastern Theater has become the target. Prepare for a thorough beating from us. As the sound of a resounding assembly horn echoed throughout the training ground, the previously tense atmosphere in the operations department dissipated in an instant. All the generals, regardless of their personal grievances, straightened their expressions, tidied their uniforms, and marched with steady, forceful strides towards the mobilization conference at the main command platform. The venue was solemn and dignified, with thousands of elite officers from the 5 major war zones already lined up. At the enormous podium in front, several military district commanders sat, their expressions grave. As a gray-haired, lean but spirited elder, accompanied by a secretary, slowly ascended to the center of the podium, the entire assembly fell silent, thousands of gazes converging upon him. Filled with reverence, he was the host of this grand military competition. The elder approached the microphone, his weathered eyes scanning the young, battle-ready faces below, and without consulting any notes, spoke in a steady and resonant voice that echoed throughout the venue. Comrades, times are changing, and our enemies are growing stronger. The advantages we once took pride in may now have become our vulnerabilities. In this era of comprehensive informationization, as the specter of intelligent warfare looms, I often ponder whether our people's army still possesses formidable combat capabilities. Can we still fulfill the sacred mission entrusted to us by the party and the people to defend our homeland? I want to ask you all, standing here on this training ground, can you still, like your predecessors, accomplish the 3 capabilities? The elder's voice suddenly rose. Can you fight? Can you fight hard? Can you win? The 3 thunderous questions reverberated like thunder, igniting a fervor within the hearts of the soldiers present, flames of passion roaring within them. Long Hantian clenched his fists tightly, and even the usually irreverent Long Guangji now wore a serious expression, his eyes sharper than ever. The elder gradually withdrew his gaze, his tone returning to calm, yet imbued with profound strength. I do not wish for you to answer me with words. I want you to demonstrate with the results of the upcoming exercises, with your casualty ratios, with your achievements. Remember, every military exercise is a rehearsal for real combat. Your opponents are your enemies. Now, I declare, the 8th Military Grand Competition begins now. As his declaration resonated, the hall erupted into thunderous applause that echoed continuously. Once the applause subsided, the elder's secretary, Qin Shang, stepped forward, opened the document in his hand, and announced the specific rules for the military exercise in a clear and concise voice. Comrades, according to the orders from the Supreme Command, this grand competition will be conducted in 2 phases. I now announce the rules for the first phase of the competition. This exercise will utilize combined brigades as the basic operational unit, divided into light and heavy combined brigades, each with separate tracks. For the heavy combined brigade track, each of the 5 major war zones will have 3 troop slots, totaling 15 heavy combined brigades participating. The exercise subject for the first phase is codenamed. Qin Shang paused momentarily, scanning the crowd before delivering a phrase that sent a shock through everyone. Annihilation War. All 15 heavy combined brigades will enter independent simulated battlefields, with operational goals aligned towards achieving comprehensive strikes and occupations of a medium to small-sized nation within a limited time frame, or securing a decisive victory in a large-scale campaign. The first phase will be an elimination round. The 15 heavy combined brigades will be ranked according to the final evaluations of the simulation system, with the bottom 6 troops being directly eliminated. Ultimately, only 9 brigades will advance to the next stage of the finals. The final ranking will be based on 3 criteria. First, the speed of completing the annihilation mission. Secondly, the magnitude of self-inflicted casualties. Thirdly, the strategic outcomes achieved. The rules have been announced. All units immediately enter a state of combat readiness, just as the command teams across various theaters were urgently finalizing their deployments. A high-ranking intelligence officer, wielding the utmost authority, silently approached Yi Bai and handed him a document sealed in a craft paper bag. Comrade Yi Bai, this is a special directive from the military, providing you with a detailed explanation of the rules. This gesture instantly captured the attention of several surrounding officers, who understood that as participants, they could only rely on the previously announced rules and their own memories to grasp the intricacies, with any oversight potentially leading to catastrophic errors. Conversely, Yi Bai, as a technical observer, was granted the privilege of receiving a comprehensive written document, the significance of which was self-evident. Yi Bai accepted the document with composure, aware that this was a convenience afforded by the military to enable him to more accurately assess the performance of equipment in various tactical environments. The contents of the document were far more detailed than the verbal announcement, encompassing battlefield environmental parameters, logistical constraints, electromagnetic interference intensity, and even a meticulous weighted algorithm for evaluating results. However, when his gaze fell upon the hypothetical enemy configuration for the first phase of the annihilation of the state, even Yi Bai couldn't help but squint slightly, a playful smile gracing his lips. Code name of the hypothetical nation, Plaster Nation. Capital of the hypothetical nation, Cherry Capital. Good, 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 Yi Bai silently repeated thrice in his mind. He instantly grasped the profound implications behind the military's and the Supreme Command's arrangement. Plaster Nation, Cherry Capital. These two evocative code names held immense significance for every soldier of the Dragon Kingdom, indeed for any citizen of the Dragon Kingdom. Anyone who faltered or performed poorly would not need to await a military tribunal. They would be overwhelmed by the public scorn. Yi Bai mused. This annihilation campaign was imbued from the outset with a weighty significance that transcended mere military engagement. It tested not only tactics and equipment, but also resolve and efficiency. As Yi Bai contemplated, the central holographic sand table and the images on the circular display suddenly transformed. Chapter 299, Severely Punished Plaster Nation, Cherry Capital. Those who are slow are doomed. 5 independent, massive simulated battlefield maps were displayed, clearly laid out before all present. As a special technical advisor, Yi Bai possessed the highest observational privileges, allowing him to view the deployment of each participating unit and the overall battlefield landscape they faced. The simulated battlefield was a vast, boundless prairie, with complex terrain interspersed with hills, valleys, and woodlands. This was the homeland of Plaster Nation. On one side of the prairie lay a vast, shimmering lake, which, according to the rules, was explicitly defined as the ocean. All participating heavy combined brigades were mandated to embark from the opposite end of the continent, with the foremost challenge being how to traverse this wide expanse of ocean, hundreds of kilometers across, and execute a high-difficulty amphibious landing operation on the coastline of Plaster Nation. This initial step effectively eliminated all traditional heavy forces skilled only in land-based maneuvers. As Yi Bai's gaze shifted to the simulated homeland of Plaster Nation, he gained a new understanding of the exercise's brutality. Across the strategic locations of the prairie, countless red icons representing enemy forces had already been densely deployed. More critically, these red icons symbolized units that were equally elite within the various military districts, but had narrowly missed selection for this exercise. To ensure fairness and intensity in the confrontation, the exercise command adopted a model of cross-matching. For instance, the defending forces of Plaster Nation that the Southern Theater faced were likely composed of elite units from the Northern or Western theaters. Once the war horn sounded, there would be no room for mercy. The defending troops, harboring resentment for not being selected as the main force, were fueled by a burning desire to prove themselves. Meanwhile, the attacking heavy combined brigades were ablaze with fervor, the hypothetical enemy setup igniting their nationalistic sentiments and warrior spirit. We'll strike down those little devils. They believed that if they did not fight fiercely and swiftly, they would not deserve the military uniforms they wore. Sparks ignited a blazing inferno. As the exercise commenced, the heavy combined brigades from the various military districts unleashed their prowess, launching a devastating assault on the simulated homeland of Plaster Nation. The 386th Brigade, led by Major General Chung Ringwei from the Northern Theater, employed the most straightforward and brutal tactics. They almost ignored the flanking defenses, forming a massive iron fist with 3 heavy combined battalions and charging directly at the enemy. During the ocean crossing phase, they assembled with remarkable speed. After landing, 100 artillery pieces, including long-range rocket launchers and self-propelled artillery, formed a barrage that unleashed a saturation fire on the enemy's coastal defenses for half an hour. The bombardment plowed through the simulated positions, with countless red damage icons flashing violently on the defenders' lines. Once the barrage halted, the armored units surged forth like a flood breaking through a dam, crushing any lingering resistance with unstoppable momentum as they plunged deep into the interior. Conversely, the 831st Brigade from the Western Theater showcased a completely different tactical style. They divided into smaller units, employing combined battalions to infiltrate multiple points along the expansive front. They avoided the enemy's strongholds, leveraging high mobility to precisely sever the enemy's supply lines, communication nodes, and command centers. The defenders' lines were torn apart, plunging them into disarray, ultimately leading to their encirclement and annihilation. The battlefield echoed with the roar of artillery, the clamor of iron, and the intensity of combat reached a fever pitch. Yet, in the command hall's holographic sand table, all observing generals noticed an unusual phenomenon. The Southern Theater's combined brigade was too slow. While other units had successfully landed and were wreaking havoc across Plaster Nation, their main force was still languidly assembling during the ocean crossing phase. The landing process was exceedingly cautious, consuming a significant amount of precious time. What is Old Dragon up to? A military parade? Some officers from other theaters could not help but whisper. However, Yi Bai, through his privileged observational perspective, discerned a different reality. Despite the Southern Theater's slow advance, each step they took was as steady as a mountain. The modified anti-tank infantry fighting vehicles shimmered with quantum phase-change armor, deftly evading and mitigating most damage from enemy long-range fire. Meanwhile, the infantry clad in red exoskeletons descended upon the battlefield like vengeful specters, each weapon discharge precisely eliminating high-value enemy fire points. Their advance was not a reckless rush, but rather an inexorable, suffocating onslaught. Finally, as reports of capturing Cherry Capital and annihilating the defending forces flooded in from the other 4 brigades, the Southern Theater belatedly completed the encirclement of the enemy capital. They were the last to accomplish the mission. At the conclusion of the exercise, the final rankings of the first batch were clearly displayed on the massive electronic screen. First place, Eastern Theater. Total time, 4 hours 12 minutes. Casualty ratio, 87. Second place, Northern Theater. Total time, 4 hours 35 minutes. Casualty ratio, 112. Third place, Southern Theater. Total time, 6 hours 02 minutes. Casualty ratio, 13. Upon witnessing the outcome, a wave of suppressed murmurs erupted throughout the operations department. Blue Guangxi from the Eastern Theater merely cast a faint glance at the time comparison displayed on the screen, his lips curling into a sneer. As if to say, is that all? Major General Chung Rengui from the Northern Theater, however, was far less restrained, vocally expressing his incredulity. Oh, I thought it was some secret weapon. Turns out it's just the tortoiseshell formation. Lao Long, are you going to war or just embarking on a leisurely outing? It took you 6 hours to deal with a minor foe. If it were the real deal, you'd be left in the dust. Even the commanders of the 4th and 5th rank units wore expressions of indignation. Damn it, moving at such a snail's pace against an enemy. This mindset is problematic. Exactly. If it were me, I would have sent the entire army in. Even if the losses were significant, we must reclaim our pride. In an instant, nearly all the criticism was directed toward the Southern Theater. Despite their astonishingly low casualty rate of 13 and a tactical objective completion rate of 100, their lethargic pace became their greatest sin in the face of the simple values of swiftness and decisiveness in combat. Confronted with the ridicule and skepticism from all sides, Long Hantian stood his ground, his face flushed and fists clenched at his sides, yet he remained silent, burying his overwhelming fury deep within. Now is not the time. Laugh. Go ahead and laugh. When we reach the second phase, I shall ensure that none of you can laugh anymore. Chapter 300. To the bitter end. The wheel battle of the combined brigade. As the smoke of the first phase had not yet fully dissipated, Secretary General Qin Chong stepped back onto the command platform. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to the 9 heavy combined brigades that have advanced. I will now announce the rules for the second phase of the competition. Upon hearing this, the tension in the operations department tightened once more. The atmosphere that had briefly relaxed due to the advancement vanished instantaneously. The second phase is codenamed To the Bitter End. All 9 combined brigades will be divided into 3 groups by lottery, with each group consisting of 3 units. The confrontation mode will be a wheel battle. Within each group, 1 brigade will defend against the consecutive attacks of the other 2 brigades. Boom. The announcement sent shockwaves through the operations department. What? A wheel battle? To continuously resist 2 equally matched heavy combined brigades? How is that possible? What a joke. After 1 battle, the ammunition, fuel, and personnel stamina will be largely exhausted. How can we withstand the full force assault of a second fresh unit? This is unreasonable. The rules are utterly absurd. The faces of the assembled major generals were etched with shock. This was no longer a drill. It was as if they were being driven to their demise. Who can endure this? Major General Chung Rengui from the Northern Theater was the first to voice his protest. Secretary General Qin, I must have misheard. We are all heavy combined brigades. Even in full strength, we would be worn thin. And now we are to fight 2 battles in succession? Are you sending us to our deaths? Exactly. Another major general from the Western Theater echoed excitedly. The ammunition capacity of my brigade is fixed. Once we finish the first match, what will I use to fight the second unit? A shovel? The chorus of dissent escalated, and the entire operations department descended into chaos. In the director's office, Yibai raised an eyebrow upon hearing the rules, internally deeming them outrageous. Such an intense confrontation demanded nearly unreasonable standards of continuous combat capability, logistical support efficiency, battlefield damage management, and the resource allocation skills of commanders. It was indeed a daunting challenge, Yibai mused. However, the realities of the battlefield often proved even more brutal. Enough of this noise. Do you find the rules unreasonable? The voice of the military elder, though not loud, carried an undeniable authority that compelled all the standing generals to instinctively take their seats. Let me ask you, more than a century ago on the battlefield, when our forebears faced enemies equipped with superior numbers and firepower, did they ever plead for fairness? In the icy expanse of the chosen reservoir, did our volunteer soldiers, clad in thin cotton clothing and armed with mere rifles, ever complain while facing fully armed elite Marine divisions? The battlefield has never been a place for reason or fairness. If you cannot withstand this trivial pressure of artificial constraints in a drill, how can you expect to triumph against those who are more powerful and devoid of reason on future battlefields? The military elder's barrage of questions struck each individual like a hammer, silencing the operations department. The generals, who had just moments ago been filled with fervor, now bowed their heads, shame etched across their faces. Indeed, compared to the dire straits faced by their predecessors, this challenge was but a trifle. I shall reiterate. There are no rehearsals on the battlefield. Each battle is a matter of life and death. If anyone has further objections, you may take your troops and withdraw from the competition now. No one dared to voice a single complaint thereafter. The operations department fell into a solemn silence. Yet the tension in the air grew even more palpable. Long Hantian took a deep breath, casting a glance at his team of advisors before gazing towards the direction of Yi Bai in the director's office, his earlier fury replaced by a steely resolve. He understood that this seemingly unreasonable rule was, in fact, a stage meticulously crafted for the Southern Theater. While conventional units might exhaust themselves after one battle, they were different. Damn it, bring it on. Long Hantian muttered under his breath, yet excitement ignited in his eyes like never before. Let us see who can outlast whom. Meanwhile, Blue Guangxi's smile took on a more playful demeanor. He adjusted his glasses, and the glint of calculation sparkled in his eyes behind the lenses. Such a complex and dynamic rule, which tested the limits of operational capabilities, was precisely the game he relished. With the military elder's decree, the lottery for the second phase commenced immediately. The identifiers of the 9 advancing combined brigades scrolled rapidly across the central screen before finally halting, dividing them into 3 distinct groups. All eyes were drawn to the most notable Group A, which included the Southern Theater's 772 Brigade. Group A, Southern Theater's 772 Brigade. Eastern Theater's 895 Brigade. Northern Theater's 386 Brigade. Upon seeing this grouping, a low gasp echoed through the operations department. The Eastern Theater's 895 Brigade, commanded by the formidable Major General Li Ba, was renowned for its fierce and aggressive combat style, serving as another trump card alongside Blue Guangxi's Red Arrow Brigade. The Northern Theater's 386 Brigade, commanded by Major General Cheng Ringui, had gained considerable fame in the first phase through their relentless frontal assault. These 3 brigades, a king of low casualties with a secret weapon, a traditional powerhouse from the Eastern Theater, and the steel torrent of the Northern Theater, formed a veritable death group. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Long Hantian surveyed the groupings, smiling rather than fuming, and repeated the word thrice. This was the tough battle he had yearned for. A chance to prove himself against the strongest adversaries. Next, the draw for the battle order within the group commenced. According to the rules, 2 units would first engage in combat, with the victor resting while the defeated would immediately face the last brigade waiting in ambush. This time, fortune seemingly did not favor the Southern Theater. The draw indicated that Group A would commence with the Eastern Theater's 895 Brigade facing off against the Northern Theater's 386 Brigade, while Long Hantian's 772 Brigade would remain on standby. Though not able to take the field immediately, the opportunity to closely observe the clash between 2 elite forces was undoubtedly the finest chance for assessing the strength of one's adversaries. With the Directorate's command, on the battlefield of Group A, 2 colossal iron legions began to advance towards each other, akin to awakened ancient beasts. The true spectacle of a steel showdown between aces had officially commenced. Inside the Directorate, Yibai occupied his designated observation post. The holographic screen before him switched to the highest authority view of the A Group battlefield, allowing him to discern the movements of every tank, artillery piece, and even each individual soldier. Chapter 301. What equipment is this? How devastatingly effective. It is finally beginning. Excitement sparkled in Yi Bai's eyes as he eagerly anticipated witnessing the formidable combat prowess of the Dragon Kingdom's most elite heavy combined brigade, devoid of his technological enhancements. The prelude to battle was heralded by the drones. As the confrontation commenced, both sides simultaneously launched hundreds of reconnaissance strike drones into the sky. Instantly, a swarm of buzzing machines filled the air, darkening the sky like an approaching storm. Guided by their respective information warfare systems, these aerial hunters swiftly engaged in their first round of skirmishes. The drone swarm of the Northern 386th Brigade adopted a straightforward tactic, forming dense attack formations that surged forward like relentless waves, attempting to breach the 895th Brigade's air defense with sheer numbers. In contrast, the Eastern 895th Brigade executed a more sophisticated response, their drones shifting formations mid-air, sometimes dispersing to lure the enemy, and at other times concentrating to unleash precise strikes, leveraging their data chain advantage to eliminate high-value targets with deadly accuracy. In the sky, explosions erupted in rapid succession as drones fell from the air like wounded birds, trailing plumes of smoke. The initial aerial clash concluded with both sides remarkably evenly matched. This is intriguing, Yi Bai thought, thoroughly engrossed. Next, ground forces made contact. The commander of the Northern 386th Brigade, Cheng Ringui, executed a frontal assault strategy to perfection. His regiment of 99 main battle tanks formed a massive wedge-shaped strike formation, akin to a searing iron hammer, crashing down upon the central defenses of the 895th Brigade. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderous roar of tanks was deafening, their treads grinding against the earth, stirring clouds of dust. Hundreds of main battle tanks fired simultaneously, the cacophony of shells exiting the barrels nearly shattering eardrums. In the face of this unstoppable tide of steel, Commander Li Ba of the Eastern 895th Brigade remained calm. Rather than engage in a head-on confrontation, he quickly dispersed his forces, utilizing the hills and woodlands to establish multiple overlapping fire points. Anti-tank missiles struck from unexpected angles like venomous serpents. Simultaneously, their self-propelled artillery units, equipped with advanced fire control radar, conducted swift hit-and-run operations, creating significant difficulties for the follow-up forces of the 386th Brigade. The battlefield roared with the sounds of artillery. The skies lit up with fire. The clash of tanks, the coverage of artillery, the whistling of missiles. Within the Directorate, Yi Bai felt his blood surge with excitement, exclaiming that this was true warfare. This was the essence of a great nation's army. Our soldiers not only possessed ironclad resolve, but now they wielded a genuine torrent of steel. On the sand table, the blue icon representing the Northern Theater's 386th Brigade was being relentlessly consumed and divided by the fierce yet agile offensive of the Eastern Theater's 895th Brigade. Ultimately, as the icon of their command center faded, this brutal battle drew to a close. The Eastern Theater, under the valiant command of Li Ba, emerged victorious. However, this victory came at a steep price. The blue icon representing the 895th Brigade maintained its structural integrity, yet its saturation had diminished by nearly 30%, indicating they had incurred significant losses of approximately 30% in the preceding battle. According to regulations, as victors, they had little time to regroup or rest before confronting the rested Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade. In the operations department, Li Ba's face bore the marks of fatigue, yet his eyes burned with an even more fervent fighting spirit. Having just won a hard-fought battle, morale was high. He ordered all units to rest for 5 minutes, checking ammunition and vehicle conditions in preparation. Before Li Ba could finish his directive, his pupils dilated in shock, just as he ordered the rest. The myriad blue icons representing the Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade began to move, and they did so with a speed and manner he could hardly comprehend. There was no gathering, no formation, and certainly no slow and heavy advance typical of traditional armored units. The countless blue dots surged forward from all directions, like a pack of wolves startled in the night, silently yet swiftly closing in on his recently bloodied and disorganized forces. What in the world is this? Li Ba was momentarily stunned. Had the Southern Theater lost its mind? Were they disregarding even the most basic tactical formations? Charging recklessly like this was tantamount to courting death. Yet, in the next instant, he would pay a heavy price for this thought. Report. Our forward reconnaissance post has gone dark. Report. The flank of the 2nd Battalion is under unidentified fire, losing 3 infantry fighting vehicles. Report. The artillery position is compromised and is currently under enemy long-range precision fire. Requesting relocation. A flurry of urgent and chaotic reports inundated Li Ba's command channel, leaving him flustered. His prideful information warfare system seemed to have malfunctioned completely. On the screen, he could only see countless high-speed moving, indistinct enemy targets, making effective locking and identification impossible. Yet the enemy's attacks were precision strikes, lethal and devastating. It was as if they could see through every weakness in his forces, each attack landing perfectly on the most vulnerable points. What horrified him even more was that his force's proud firepower appeared utterly impotent against these ghostly foes. Whether it was the main gun of the tank or the pursuit of anti-tank missiles, most attacks seemed to vanish into thin air, and even receiving effective battle damage reports from the enemy proved difficult. This was not a fair fight. This was a massacre. In less than half an hour, merely 30 minutes, Li Ba's 895th Brigade, once buoyed by high spirits, was utterly decimated under this suffocating and asymmetrical assault. When the system determined that their command center had been destroyed and all units rendered combat ineffective, Li Ba sat dazed in his command seat, disbelief etched across his face. He had lost, inexplicably, and without the means to retaliate. Meanwhile, at the command seat of the Southern Theater, Long Hantian surveyed the cleanly executed results with a long sigh. Far from reveling in victory, his expression reflected a deep sense of lament. Damn it, that was too easy. He turned to his aide beside him, saying with resignation, "Make a note that the heavy artillery provided by Comrade Yi Bai didn't even get a chance to fire. We swept them away with conventional firepower alone. This test data is completely insufficient." Had Li Ba heard these words, he would likely have been infuriated to the point of spitting blood. As the first round concluded, the tide of battle had swiftly turned. Long Hantian's 772nd Brigade became the new defenders, preparing to face the successive challenges posed by Li Ba and Cheng Ringui's forces. Recently humiliated and eliminated, Li Ba was left with 1,000 questions and a torrent of rage. "All right, lousy. I must witness what kind of sorcery resides in your Southern Theater." Li Ba, harboring a fierce determination, regrouped his forces. This time, having learned from past mistakes, he resolved to abandon all tactical subtleties and commence with an overwhelming barrage of firepower, intent on erasing the enemy from existence. The battle commenced. Chapter 302. What? Long Guangji is only ranked 3rd? All units, execute a relentless saturation bombardment. Reduce that area to rubble. Li Ba, with fiery eyes, issued an almost frenzied command. In an instant, hundreds of artillery pieces and rocket launchers roared simultaneously, unleashing a multitude of missiles that soared into the sky, forming an impenetrable curtain of death. Directed at the initial position of the Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade. Yet, in the fleeting second before this annihilating barrage was to descend, an extraordinary event transpired. The blue icon representing the 772nd Brigade on the battlefield map inexplicably vanished. It simply disappeared from everyone's radar screens. Li Ba's barrage ultimately fell upon nothing, creating countless meaningless craters in the ground. What is happening? Where are they? Li Ba bellowed at the communications officer. At that moment, his command system screen erupted in static, followed by a flurry of red alerts indicating severe casualties. Report. Our tanks have exploded spontaneously. Report. The command center has suffered an unknown electromagnetic pulse attack. All electronic devices are malfunctioning. Report. We are surrounded. Enemies everywhere. They seem to be invisible. Li Ba was utterly bewildered. He stormed to the command center, pointing at the data screen, and shouted at the officer in charge of decisions. "This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Your data must be erroneous. The Southern Theater is cheating." The officer in the command center merely shot him a cold glance, gesturing to the screen's data, and calmly stated, "Major General Li, all data has been processed in real time by supercomputers, with no anomalies detected. The exercise continues." No anomalies? Li Ba felt as if struck by lightning. Returning to his command seat in a daze, watching his forces fall like grass before a scythe, his mind blank. He couldn't even catch a glimpse of the enemy. All he saw were swarms of futuristic drones suddenly hovering above his troops, coldly executing their grim task. In less than 20 minutes, the Eastern Theater's 895th Brigade was completely annihilated. For the second time, they were wiped out in a manner he could not comprehend. Li Ba stood there, stunned, staring at the holographic map where his forces had turned to shades of gray, his mind vacant. Twice, he had been humiliated with such swift defeats. And in the second encounter, he hadn't even seen how the enemy struck. This overwhelming defeat, akin to a dimensional collapse, threatened to shatter his confidence entirely. What kind of strategy is this? Other generals within the operations department also sensed an overwhelming aura of danger and unease from this brief, yet bizarre battle. There was certainly something amiss with the Southern Theater. Now, it was the turn of the Northern Theater's Chung Ringwei and his 386th Brigade. Witnessing Li Ba's catastrophic fate, Chung Ringwei's initial bravado evaporated, replaced by a profound wariness. He completely abandoned the notion of offensive confrontation. Order all units to assume a full defensive posture. Contract the lines and establish circular defensive fortifications. Our goal is not victory, but survival. We will endure for as long as we can. Engage in a war of attrition. Dragon Hantian's commanding style had never entertained the notion of retreating once an advantage was gained, especially after enduring the humiliation of the first phase. His current objective was to lay bare the fangs of the Southern Theater for all to see. Want to play turtle? Not a chance. Dragon Hantian sneered, gesturing grandly. All forces advance. Pursue and eliminate them. Unleash everything we have to show them. The battle reignited, just as Chung Ringwei's 386th Brigade began constructing their defensive works. Their nightmare descended. The ground assault commenced, but it was not the onslaught of tanks they had anticipated. Report. Enemy infantry spotted. They are clad in red steel armor. Their speed is astonishing. Our firepower cannot lock on. Dozens of special forces in red armor appeared before the 386th Brigade's front line like phantoms. Their running speed surpassed even that of wheeled infantry vehicles, and each shot from their rifles precisely penetrated the vulnerable spots of armored vehicles, triggering a series of catastrophic explosions. Chung Ringwei's soldiers were horrified to discover that their proud heavy machine gun rounds merely sparked against the red armor. Use the main gun. Fire the tank's main cannon at them. Chung Ringwei shouted hoarsely. However, before his tanks could pivot, the true weapons of destruction made their entrance. Buzz. A visible energy beam, glowing with a bluish hue, silently shot from the distance, instantly penetrating the frontal armor of a 99A main battle tank. The several-ton steel beast didn't even explode. All crew members inside were instantaneously vaporized by the system, turning it into a cold steel coffin. It was a plasma ray. Soon after, another 99A tank, attempting to retaliate, was struck by a silent shell before it could fire. Unlike conventional shells, this projectile released an indescribable and terrifying kinetic energy upon impact, sending the 99A tank soaring several meters into the air, where it disintegrated in a fiery explosion. It was a railgun shock cannon. Li Ba, observing the astonishing and surreal scene on the battlefield map, was left dumbfounded. Plasma ray, kinetic weapon, exoskeletal armor, drone mothership, he muttered, unconsciously uttering terms he had only seen in science fiction films, his face pale. Was this still a composite brigade? This was clearly a ground force of an interstellar fleet. He finally understood why he had suffered such a crushing defeat. This was not a tactical failure. It was a technological onslaught from another dimension. Chung Ringwei's forces, confronted with these unprecedented, otherworldly weapons, found their so-called circular defense as fragile as tissue paper. In less than an hour, the entire 386th Brigade was utterly defeated, collapsing entirely. Thus, the battles of Group A concluded, with the Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade achieving 2 victories, with 0 casualties, a terrifying record. When the final rankings of all groups in the second phase were displayed on the central screen, the command hall fell into a profound silence. Second phase overall ranking. First, Southern Theater 772nd Brigade. Second, Central Theater 478th Brigade. Third, Eastern Theater Red Arrow Brigade. Chapter 303. Are they out of their minds? Have they equipped war mechs? As the rankings were finalized, the attention of everyone in the operations department focused on the 3 advancing teams, the atmosphere thick with tension. Secretary General Qin Chong ascended the command platform once more to announce the rules for the final showdown. Now, we commence the third phase, the ultimate battle. The Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade, the Central Theater's 478th Brigade, and the Eastern Theater's Red Arrow Brigade will simultaneously enter the final battlefield. The rule is singular, chaos. The last surviving force will be crowned the champion of this competition. At this proclamation, the room erupted in uproar. A 3-way melee. This is not merely a contest of strength. It is the ultimate test of strategy, diplomacy, and luck. Long Hantian inhaled deeply, his gaze sweeping rapidly across the holographic battlefield. The 478th Brigade of the Central Theater, commanded by Major General Su, was known for its steady tactics and formidable prowess, bolstered by the advanced weaponry provided by Yi Bai. In contrast, the Red Arrow Brigade of the Eastern Theater, led by the cunning and treacherous Long Guangji, was undoubtedly the most unpredictable factor in such a tripartite standoff. The greatest risk was being jointly overwhelmed by 2 factions. An alliance was imperative. Long Hantian swiftly resolved to act. He immediately dispatched a communication request to Major General Su through a secure channel. Old Su, do not hesitate. Let us join forces to eliminate that scoundrel Long Guangji. His nefarious methods are a threat we cannot afford to ignore. Once he is dealt with, we can engage in a fair showdown. What do you think? However, there was only silence on the other end of the communication channel, a response that was delayed unnaturally. A sense of foreboding surged within Long Hantian's heart. At that very moment, the holographic battlefield displayed the blue and green icons representing the Central Theater's 478th Brigade and the Eastern Theater's Red Arrow Brigade, both moving simultaneously. Contrary to Long Hantian's expectations of mutual aggression, they formed a massive pincer maneuver, advancing from two directions to encircle the positions of his Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade. What the hell? Exclaimed an officer from another theater in the operations room. Old Long has been betrayed. The Central Theater has allied with the Eastern Theater. Long Hantian, witnessing the blatant offensive intent on the battlefield, trembled with rage, his face turning a deep shade of crimson. Su, you bastard. He never imagined that the typically steady Central Theater would choose to collaborate with the ingenious Long Guangji. In an instant, the Southern Theater found itself trapped in a dire predicament, facing pressure from both sides. Meanwhile, at the command seat of the Eastern Theater, a smug smile graced Long Guangji's face. He had successfully persuaded Major General Su to unite against the greatest threat posed by the Southern Theater, which possessed unknown advanced technology. In his view, as long as they could ascertain the Southern Theater's capabilities, the combined strength of their elite composite brigades would ensure a swift victory. Order all units to advance steadily in coordination with our allies from the Central Theater. I want to see what treasures Long Hantian is hiding. Yet, as the battle commenced, the smile on Long Guangji's face began to freeze. The Southern Theater, as he had anticipated, unveiled those unheard-of sci-fi weapons once again. Plasma rays and electromagnetic railguns wreaked havoc upon their vanguard units. However, this was within Long Guangji's expectations. What truly sent shivers down his spine was the performance of his ally from the Central Theater. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of massive airdrop capsules descended from the sky, crashing heavily to the ground. When the doors opened, they revealed not tanks or infantry, but towering war mechs, 10 meters tall and clad in heavy armor, each shouldering a Vulcan cannon and missile launchers. These steel behemoths stomped forward with a heavy gait, shaking the earth beneath them as their Vulcan cannons unleashed torrents of destruction. Tearing a gaping hole in the front line of the Southern Theater, Long Guangji was left dumbfounded, his worldview shattered as he watched the war mechs rampaging across the battlefield. What on earth is this? He turned sharply to Major General Su, only to find a similar, bemused smile adorning Su's face. In that instant, Long Guangji understood. Damn it, you both have these. He finally realized that he was not merely collaborating with allies to combat a formidable foe. He was an ordinary player who had stumbled into a match between two deities. His prideful modern composite brigade was nothing more than a band of primitive men wielding firewood in the face of these sci-fi brigades that could effortlessly deploy war mechs and plasma cannons. How could they possibly fight? This was no longer a battle of dimensions. Cooperation? Long Guangji looked at the holographic battlefield, where two sci-fi brigades equipped with extraordinary weaponry clashed. A torrent of expletives surged through his mind. Cooperate? To hell with that. After all this, I am the fool. The battlefield was no longer the familiar three-way melee he knew, but had devolved into an exclusive showcase for two divine entities. The Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade and the Central Theater's 478th Brigade, sci-fi forces seemingly transported from some future timeline, were now utterly bloodthirsty. The red exoskeletons of the Southern Theater danced like phantoms, entangled with the Central Theater's heavy war mechs, each clash erupting in blinding bursts of energy. In the distance, the plasma rays from the Southern Theater intertwined with the electromagnetic cannons wielded by the Central Theater's mechs, creating dazzling and deadly trails of light in the sky, transforming the entire battlefield into a steel hell. Meanwhile, he, the proud genius Major General Long Guangji of the Eastern Theater, along with his esteemed modern Red Arrow Brigade, found themselves awkwardly caught in the middle. In name, he was an ally of the Central Theater, allowing Major General Su's forces to unleash their firepower against Long Hantian without reservation, affording them a significant numerical advantage and leaving the formerly evenly matched Long Hantian at a disadvantage. Yet, in reality, amidst this divine conflict, he, the mere mortal, had become the most unfortunate casualty. Boom. A magnetic railgun shot intended for an anti-tank infantry vehicle in the Southern Theater whizzed by, narrowly missing its target. and crashed directly into one of Lan Guangji's tank battalions. There was no earth-shattering explosion, only a peculiar silence. Under the terrifying kinetic shock, several Type 99A main battle tanks were reduced to heaps of scrap metal. Report: Our Tiger Tooth Company is completely annihilated. Upon hearing the casualty report, Lan Guangji's eyelid twitched violently. Before he could regain his composure, on another part of the battlefield, a war mech from the Central Theater was obliterated by concentrated fire from the Southern Theater, triggering a devastating chain explosion. The massive shockwave swept through like a tsunami, instantly lifting his deployed infantry positions on the flanks into the air, engulfed by a storm of scalding steel fragments. Report: The defensive position of the 2nd Battalion on the flank has suffered over 70% casualties. Chapter 304. How can one fight when the odds are stacked? Lan Guangji stared intently at the holographic battlefield, where the green icon representing his forces flickered wildly, dimming with each passing moment, veins bulging on his forehead. He had thoroughly experienced the truth of the saying, when gods battle, mortals suffer. Long Hantian and Major General Su's forces, equipped with various advanced technologies, could still defend themselves in such a fierce exchange of fire. However, his purely modern brigade felt as fragile as paper on this battlefield. If this continued, before the two divine entities could determine a victor, Lan Guangji's Red Arrow Brigade would be obliterated by the terrifying aftermath of war. At that point, he would become the greatest joke of the competition, a third-place finisher who was literally scared to death. No, absolutely not. Lan Guangji slammed his hand on the table, a flicker of determination in his eyes. He, Lan Guangji, could accept defeat, but he would not accept such a humiliating one. To avoid finishing last, and to preserve his fighting force, he must make a decisive move immediately. To hell with this, I'm not playing along anymore. He took a deep breath and quickly connected to Major General Su's command channel. Old Su, on the front lines, we find ourselves in a position of extreme passivity. If this continues, the casualties will be unbearable. I am prepared to lead our troops to immediately disengage from combat, executing a wide-ranging strategic flanking maneuver from the Western Front, directly targeting Long Hantian's rear. We shall strike him from the north and south, encircling him like a dumpling. This fervent proclamation exuded a spirit of valor, with clear tactical intent and a fervent willingness to aid allies at great personal risk. However, Major General Su, who was currently commanding his forces to suppress Long Hantian, was momentarily taken aback upon hearing these words. Instinctively glancing at the holographic display, he observed the green icon representing Blue Guangji's forces beginning to move en masse away from the main battlefield towards the western rear. Such movement was not a strategic flanking maneuver, but rather a hasty retreat. Major General Su's expression darkened instantly. He understood all too well Blue Guangji's intentions. That scoundrel Blue. Enraged, Major General Su vociferously cursed within the command center, his voice resonating throughout the operations department. You dare call this encirclement? This is nothing less than a backstab. Within the directorate, Yi Bai observed the dramatic scene unfold on the holographic display, a subtle smile gracing his lips. To him, Blue Guangji's retreat was entirely predictable. This was a three-way struggle for supremacy. There are no eternal allies, only enduring interests. Blue Guangji's decision to conserve his strength and avoid becoming cannon fodder was the most tactically advantageous choice. Major General Su's fury was merely a reaction to the disruption of his plans. On the battlefield, as Blue Guangji withdrew, the pressure on Long Hantian dissipated instantly. Without the interference of the Eastern Theater, he could finally unleash all his wrath unreservedly upon Major General Su of the Central Theater. Troops, heed my command. Bring forth all our weaponry. I intend to show that scoundrel Su the consequences of playing tricks against me, Long Hantian. In an instant, the long-repressed war beast of the Southern Theater's 772nd Brigade revealed its most fearsome fangs. Dozens of anti-tank infantry fighting vehicles advanced in formation, their eerie blue plasma rays and silent magnetic railguns forming an impenetrable web of deadly crossfire, like the scythe of death, mercilessly reaping the lives of the Central Theater's war mechs. While the war mechs of the Central Theater were formidable, they proved inadequate against the unprecedented saturation fire designed specifically to counter armored units. One mech after another was pierced through the core by plasma rays or overturned by the magnetic railgun. Major General Su's forces retreated step by step under the relentless assault from Long Hantian, their lines continually compressed, the tide of battle turning against them. With mere minutes remaining, victory was nearly within reach, as he stood on the brink of annihilating Major General Su's command post. Yet, at this critical moment, an unwelcome variable emerged once more. The very Blue Guangxi who had just executed a hasty retreat now returned with a vengeance. Reports flooded in. Our rear flank is under massive attack by enemy forces. It is the Eastern Theater's Red Arrow Brigade. Blue Guangxi's troops struck like a poisoned dagger into Long Hantian's vulnerable rear. One must concede. This ingenious major's timing was nothing short of ruthless. Most of Long Hantian's advanced weaponry had been deployed to the front lines, leaving his rear defenses relatively weak. After incurring some losses, Blue Guangxi's conventional forces indeed breached the defenses, even capturing several anti-tank infantry fighting vehicles that had temporarily shut down due to energy depletion, along with several sets of red exoskeleton battlesuits. Inside the Eastern Theater's command post, jubilation erupted. We have captured cutting-edge weapons from the Southern Theater. A flicker of exhilaration crossed Blue Guangxi's face as he promptly commanded, "Quickly, have the technicians analyze them immediately. Activate them on the spot. Use their own weapons against them." However, the next moment, the report from the technical unit fell like a bucket of cold water, dousing his excitement. "We are unable to recognize the operating systems and energy interfaces of these weapons. The startup password is a dynamic key, and we cannot crack it. These are just heaps of scrap metal." Blue Guangxi was momentarily stunned, gazing at the sci-fi weapons within arm's reach yet utterly unusable, nearly choking on his rage. Damn it! He slammed his fist down on the control console, a glint of determination flashing in his eyes. "If we cannot utilize them, then let us detonate them. They must not return to Long Hantian's hands. Command all units to disengage. Advance forward. Strike directly at Long Hantian's command center." On the battlefield, Long Hantian was compelled to make an infuriating decision. He watched helplessly as Major General Su, who was on the verge of complete annihilation, turned his weapons against the accursed fly behind him. "Blue Guangxi, curse you!" Long Hantian's fury erupted as he bellowed orders. "Eliminate him, at any cost." The terrifying wrath of the Sci-Fi Brigade, fully enraged, was unleashed upon Blue Guangxi, resulting in the annihilation of his entire Red Arrow Brigade. Ultimately, when Long Hantian's special forces stormed the command post of the Red Arrow Brigade and placed a cold blade against Blue Guangxi's neck, this ingenious major merely sighed, his face etched with reluctance. He had failed, captured alive, and was entirely out of the game. However, in his sacrifice, he had successfully secured Major General Su the most precious opportunity for respite. Just as Long Hantian dealt with Blue Guangxi, his forces were still in the process of realigning. When Major General Su, leading his remaining battered troops, charged from the flank like a shark smelling blood, launching a final, desperate assault, a true battle for survival commenced. Chapter 305, Capture Blue Guangxi. The Southern Military District secures first place. The battle raged on until nightfall, with both sides nearly exhausting their ammunition and energy supplies. The advanced sci-fi weapons had long since depleted their munitions, rendered into immobile heaps of scrap. The war reverted to its most primal and bloodstained form. Soldiers from both sides leaped from their vehicles, wielding bayonets, shovels, fists, and teeth, engaging in the most brutal hand-to-hand combat upon the scorched earth ravaged by artillery fire. Each second saw casualty icons dimming on the holographic display. In the command hall, everyone stood, breath held, anxiously watching this final bloody confrontation. At last, when the last Central Theater mech squad was obliterated by several soldiers clad in exoskeleton suits through close-range demolition, the battlefield fell into complete silence. The central screen emitted a cold, mechanical judgment, echoing throughout the hall. Exercise concluded. Final victor, Southern Military District's 772nd Brigade. Long Hantian had clinched a victory by an almost negligible margin. After a brief silence, the command hall erupted into thunderous applause. "We won. The Southern Military District triumphed. What an arduous battle. This was undeniably the most brutal final in the history of these competitions." Commander Peng stood with excitement, vigorously patting Long Hantian on the shoulder. His eyes filled with exhilaration. After days of fierce combat among the 5 military districts, the Southern Military District emerged victorious. This time, their first place standing was truly deserved. However, after a moment of silence, dissenting voices began to rise. "I accept the defeat." The recently eliminated Major General Su, though pale, retained his sharp gaze. "But we did not lose due to command. Long Hantian, had it not been for your chaotic sci-fi weaponry, you could not have bested me in tactical command." While the Central Theater possessed the equipment provided by Yubai, it was still vastly inferior to that of the Southern Military District. Indeed, in the Northern Theater, Cheng Ringue resonated with a deep voice, expressing his frustration. "This battle has been exceedingly suffocating. We cannot even penetrate your armor. How can we fight? This is not a matter of strategy. It is purely a discrepancy in equipment. In an instant, the discourse shifted to the superiority of equipment. Almost all the generals concurred that they had not been outmaneuvered by Long Hantian's tactical brilliance, but had succumbed to the unheard-of, unseen black technology. Amidst the fervent discussions, the venerable military elder, who had remained silent until now, gradually ascended the command platform. His weathered eyes surveyed the faces of every officer present, and an immediate hush enveloped the room. I know many of you harbor discontent. His voice was steady and powerful, resonating in every ear. You believe that if granted the same equipment, you too could achieve victory. You think this is a triumph of machinery, not of humanity. However, comrades, he shifted his tone, sharpening his words. I ask you, is not equipment a vital component of combat effectiveness? Our people's army has never lacked an indomitable will. This has been proven countless times over our century-long history. His gaze traversed to Long Hantian, then to Major General Su and Lan Guangji, finally resting upon the assembly of officers. Yet, facts also affirm this. A force that possesses both an iron will and a mighty arsenal is the true embodiment of a strong military. It is this very force that can triumph in the wars of the future. Today, the Southern Theater has demonstrated to us that when our warriors are not only endowed with fearless courage, but also clad in unyielding armor and wielding indomitable swords, the combat potential they unleash will be truly terrifying. Each word resonated profoundly, striking like a hammer upon the hearts of the audience. The generals, who had previously been filled with grievances, now bowed their heads, lost in contemplation. The military elder descended the platform and approached Yi Bai, much to the astonishment of hundreds of officers present. Comrade Yi Bai, he said earnestly, extending his hand. I represent the 5 major theaters and countless soldiers in expressing our gratitude. Thank you for forging such a formidable sword for our people's army. A wave of astonishment swept through the crowd as all eyes converged upon Yi Bai. They finally understood that the source of this remarkable black technology was none other than this seemingly unremarkable young man. The military elder gripped Yi Bai's hand tightly, guiding him to the center of the platform. I know that many of you are curious about these new armaments from the South. Now, let us invite the greatest contributor to this competition, Comrade Yi Bai, to share the surprises he has brought us. As Yi Bai approached the microphone amidst a blend of astonished, curious, envious, and even jealous gazes from the generals, he surveyed the audience, revealing his characteristic, innocuous smile. Esteemed leaders and generals, greetings. In truth, I am not well versed in military matters, nor do I grasp the intricacies of tactics. I am merely a technician, someone who runs a civilian automobile repair shop. This opening statement nearly caused the officers below to widen their eyes in disbelief. You consider those war mechs and plasma cannons as civilian? Yi Bai shrugged, continuing in a tone of sincere straightforwardness. What I can do is quite simple. I provide whatever weaponry you require. You desire specific functionalities. I shall craft the corresponding equipment. That is all. His words, though modest, exuded an ineffable, suffocating confidence. If you dare to envision it, I dare to create it. The generals exchanged glances, each inhaling sharply. Just as Yi Bai finished speaking, Long Hantian could no longer contain himself and seized the microphone. Let me share. He cleared his throat and began to boast animatedly. Our red battle suits were originally designed by Comrade Yi Bai as firefighting mechs. Once donned, they are indistinguishable from a Gundam. The most remarkable feature is that layer of armor. Bullets from heavy machine guns merely tickle it. And that cannon capable of flipping tanks? It's called the Magnetic Rail Impact Cannon. Silent and precise, it obliterates main battle tanks with ease. Not to mention the plasma incineration ray that can pierce through tanks, eliminating crew members unseen. Oh, and the stealth vehicles and drones. The artillery interception capabilities. There are so many, I can hardly keep count. Long Hantian's exuberance grew with each word, as if he were showcasing his own prized possessions, while the assembled generals listened in astonishment, utterly captivated. This is utterly outrageous, Lan Guangji murmured, his face etched with bitterness. The defeat is no injustice. They are simply too formidable. This battle transcends dimensions. At this moment, all officers, regardless of rank or theater of origin, gazed at Yi Bai on the platform with eyes filled with a mixture of awe and reverence. This was no longer mere genius. This was a prodigy. Amidst the suffocating silence, the military elder ascended the platform once more, this time bearing a velvet-covered tray upon which lay a brand-new, gleaming pair of shoulder insignias. Major. The pupils of every officer constricted upon glimpsing the insignias. Comrades, the military elder's voice pierced the silence, his gaze fixed intently on Yi Bai. Our people's army has always rewarded merit and utilized talent. Comrade Yi Bai, through his own efforts, has made immeasurable and groundbreaking contributions to our Army's modernization and technological advancement. His achievements are deserving of a place in our military annals. With a resounding voice, he announced, "It has been decided by the Supreme Command, and I personally confer upon Comrade Yi by the rank of Army Major." As his words echoed, the military elder approached Yi Bai, carefully placing the insignia of honor and responsibility upon his shoulders. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. An 18-year-old major, without a day of military school or service, he ascended directly from captain to officer based solely on his irreplaceable contributions to research. In the entirety of the Army, no, across the globe, this was an unparalleled miracle. As the weighty insignia settled upon his shoulders, Yi Bai felt a surge of exhilaration, standing tall and saluting the military elder with a perfectly executed military gesture. "To serve the people. Excellent, excellent, excellent." The military elder repeated thrice, heartily patting Yi Bai's shoulder, his eyes filled with pride. Following a brief silence, the entire operations department erupted into thunderous, unending applause. The conferral ceremony concluded, and Yi Bai instantly became the sole focus of attention. Major Yi, young and accomplished, truly remarkable. The first to rush forward was Commander Li from the Northern Theater. "Major Yi, our northern region is frigid, and the warmth of our troops' vehicles and individual gear has always been a pressing issue. Could you possibly design a set of mechs that can both fight and withstand the cold?" "Commander Li, no need for formality. We will certainly strive to meet your needs." Yi Bai responded with a smile. Major Yi, do not heed old Li's ramblings. They up north only know how to charge forward blindly." Commander Lin from the Western Theater approached decisively, pushing Commander Li aside. "In our western region, characterized by high plateaus and mountainous terrain, the demand for lightweight and mobile equipment is paramount. Major Yi, could you provide us with some apparatus capable of traversing cliffs and precipices? Alternatively, special equipment that can adapt to the hypoxic conditions of the plateau would suffice." Lin's vision was undeniably forward-thinking, and we could delve deeper into this later. Soon after, Commander Lei from the Eastern Theater joined, accompanied by the enigmatic genius, Major General Long Guangji, whose expression was a mix of contemplation and complexity. "Major Yi, it is an honor to finally meet you. In the Eastern Theater, where we integrate maritime and aerial capabilities, our requirements for electromagnetic countermeasures and information warfare are unparalleled. I wonder if you have ventured into these realms. For instance, coatings that render our aircraft completely invisible, or electromagnetic pulse weapons capable of incapacitating an entire carrier strike group." Commander Lei's inquiries struck directly at the most advanced and critical fields, revealing the extent of his ambition. Meanwhile, the generals of the combined brigades found themselves unable to penetrate this core circle, relegated to anxiously hovering on the periphery. "Major Yi, I am Chung Ringue from the 386th Brigade. Our brigade thrives on direct confrontation. Could you possibly enhance the caliber of our tank's main cannon? Ideally, something powerful enough to level a mountain with a single shot." As the clamor of military exercises gradually faded in the imperial capital of Zhonghai, beneath the red walls and green tiles, pine and cypress trees stood sentinel, and the air was imbued with a profound sense of history and solemnity. In a private reception room, Elder Long personally prepared a cup of hot tea for Yi Bai. "Yi Bai," Elder Long set down the teacup, his eyes reflecting an unprecedented seriousness. "The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss a particular department, a special one, the 749 Bureau." At the mention of this name, Yi Bai felt a subtle stir within. He had encountered this code name in various rumors and networks, often associated with mysterious and supernatural occurrences. "I am aware of the myriad speculations surrounding this department." Elder Long seemed to read Yi Bai's thoughts, offering a knowing smile. "In truth, the 749 Bureau does not engage in ghost catching or demon slaying. Its core mission is to employ cutting-edge science to decode phenomena that defy conventional explanation. Simultaneously, it serves as our nation's premier institution for the research and development of future technologies." Elder Long rose and approached a concealed projection screen, activating it to reveal an expansive starry sky. The camera gradually zoomed in, ultimately focusing on the moon's eternal dark side, forever turned away from Earth. "In our lunar exploration program, we discovered entities that do not belong to human civilization on the moon's far side." The scene shifted to reveal a jet-black crystal, adorned with peculiar patterns, before Yi Bai's eyes. An extraterrestrial crystal. Elder Long's voice deepened gravely. "We enlisted the nation's foremost scientists and devoted years to painstakingly deciphering a mere fraction of 1/1000th of the information contained within this crystal. Yet, Even this minuscule insight has birthed an ambitious and nearly mad plan, the Southgate Project. On the projection screen, a series of vividly imaginative concept designs materialized. Colossal space warships spanning the cosmos, immense bases perched on the lunar surface, and mech legions traversing the stars. As Yibai gazed at these simultaneously familiar and alien images, a tempest of emotion surged within him. Alas, Elder Long sighed, his expression tinged with regret. Given our current technological capabilities, transforming these blueprints into reality is akin to chasing phantoms. Each field, materials science, energy studies, propulsion technology, presents insurmountable obstacles. These are challenges I may be able to tackle. Yibai's voice was soft yet infused with gravity, causing the air in the reception room to tense. However, even for me, it will require considerable time and resources. No problem. Elder Long abruptly turned, his fervor igniting. We have time. We will provide the resources. As long as we can realize it, as long as there is hope in sight, our nation's current affluence can fully support this research. His tone grew impassioned. Our military might is now arguably the strongest in the world, yet this supremacy does not render us invincible. Moreover, in the face of an unknown alien civilization with technology far surpassing our imagination, we cannot ascertain whether they come in peace or hostility. We must safeguard against potential threats. We must possess the power to protect ourselves before their arrival. Chapter 307. Assuming office at the 749 Bureau, developing the Shadow Drone Mech. Yibai fell into silence, deeply grasping the weight of Elder Long's words. This was a dilemma fraught with difficulty. Abstaining from action would allow the nation to conserve vast amounts of wealth and energy for continued, steady progress. Yet, the price would be that when the unknown civilization eventually descended, the entire Blue Planet, the entire Dragon Nation, would be utterly defenseless, left at the mercy of their whims. Conversely, taking action would be a gamble, a prolonged endeavor that could drain resources and may not yield visible results. Yet, to ensure the eternal flame of civilization and to spare future generations from living in the shadow of alien dominion, this step must be taken. The pain of a century past is a wound that all Dragon Nation citizens shall never forget. I understand. Yibai raised his head, his gaze resolute as he met Elder Long's. The rise and fall of a nation is a shared responsibility. I shall not shirk from this duty. Excellent. Elder Long exclaimed, slapping the table, tears glistening in his eyes. From this day forth, you are a special researcher at the 749 Bureau. Your first research project will commence with the foundational and critical individual combat unit from the Southgate Project. Elder Long indicated the sleek, powerful design of the drone mech on the screen. Project codename, Shadow. The initial research funding is 500 million. Further resources can be provided as needed. Upon returning to the high-tech factory located in the outskirts of the imperial capital, Yibai wasted no time and immediately sequestered himself in the control room, immersing his mind in thought. Initiate Phase 2 of the Super Laboratory. Target, Shadow Drone Mech. Activate quantum computing for comprehensive analysis and solution simulation. Yibai issued the command. Command received. Target, Shadow Drone Mech. Constructing quantum computing simulation data model. Analyzing technical pathways. However, this analytical process proved far more arduous than Yibai had anticipated. Warning. Target technology level exceeds current analytical permissions. Computational overload. Warning. The analysis process will consume vast amounts of shock value. Please confirm. Host. Lines of stark red warnings flashed before Yibai's eyes. Continue the analysis. How much shock value is needed? Yibai inquired, his tone steady. Estimated shock value consumption, 30 million. Estimated analysis completion time, 30 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. Upon seeing these figures and the timeline, even Yibai could not suppress a sharp intake of breath. A full month, an entire month's time, and a staggering 30 million shock value. This was previously unfathomable. Yet, immediately following this realization, an overwhelming surge of exhilaration washed over him. The system provided explicit consumption and timing, which signified what? It meant that this seemingly fanciful shadow drone mech could indeed be manufactured. As long as there was a progress bar, even if slow, there would eventually be a conclusion. We must pursue this. It is imperative. Yibai's eyes sparkled with an unprecedented excitement. This was the shadow drone mech, the cornerstone of the Southgate Project, the beacon of hope against alien civilizations. Forget 30 million shock value. Even if it were 3 billion, he would unhesitatingly invest it. Confirm the analysis. Commence immediately. Command confirmed. As the groundbreaking quantum computing simulation commenced, an interface that he had long overlooked unexpectedly materialized. The upgrade progress of the Phase 2 Super Laboratory stood at an impressive 95. Upon noticing this figure, Yibai was momentarily taken aback, but swiftly grasped its significance. This meant that once he successfully deciphered the Shadow Drone mecha, the laboratory's upgrade progress would surge directly from 95 to a full 100. At that point, the Phase 2 Super Laboratory would officially transition into Phase 3. Yibai's heart raced uncontrollably. If the Phase 2 laboratory was already so formidable, how terrifying would the Phase 3 laboratory be? Exiting his concentrated state within the Super Laboratory, Yibai exhaled deeply. The analysis of the Shadow Mecha had entered a productive phase. Although it would take a month, the seeds of hope had been sown. And all that remained was to patiently await their fruition. However, before he could enjoy a moment of tranquility, the factory's access control system announced a visitor. Upon seeing the familiar visage displayed on the screen, Yibai couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. The visitor was none other than Major General Lan Guangji, a prodigy from the Eastern Theater who had been indirectly eliminated during the recent military exercise. Yibai approached the entrance, where he found Lan Guangji alone, dressed in civilian attire. The cunning demeanor he had displayed in the exercise was replaced by a hint of melancholy. "Major Yi, I hope my unannounced visit does not offend," Lan Guangji said, extending his hand. "General Lan, you are too courteous. Please, come in," Yibai replied, shaking his hand and ushering him into the reception room. As they settled into their seats, Lan Guangji wasted no time and got straight to the point. "Major Yi, I am here today to request your assistance. I hope you can help us in the Eastern Theater by retrofitting a batch of 99A main battle tanks." Yibai furrowed his brow at this request. "Retrofit the 99A? I must be misunderstanding. The 99A is still our Army's most advanced main battle tank, isn't it? Until the updated 99B is deployed on a large scale. It is undoubtedly our backbone. Its performance should be quite robust." "Robust?" A bitter smile crept onto Lan Guangji's face at this word. "Major Yi, please do not jest. Before this military exercise, I too believed in its strength, thinking it was our Army's pride, an invincible steel torrent. However, when I witnessed the Southern Theater's railgun effortlessly hurling it like a toy and saw the Central Theater's war mechs crushing it like a tin can, I realized that our notion of strength was merely a narrow perspective. You have also seen that both the Southern and Central Theaters now possess the advanced weaponry you have crafted. As the champion of past competitions and the shield guarding the Eastern Gate, we have nothing. While we genuinely rejoice for our brother units and take pride in the strength of our Dragon Nation's military, there is a palpable sting in our hearts." He paused, his voice tinged with unmasked sorrow. "It feels as though three brothers venture forth together, with two clad in impenetrable armor wielding divine weapons, while you are left in mere cloth, clutching a wooden stick. That feeling is truly unbearable." Listening to Lan Guangji's heartfelt lament, tinged with a hint of grievance, Yibai could hardly contain his laughter. Is this truly the same prodigious Major General who had once riled up the exercise field and provoked Major Su to expletives? Yet, he understood the depth of his feelings. However, understanding aside, the reality remains that I am currently engaged in a project of utmost national significance, one of the highest priority, and I simply cannot spare the time and energy, Yibai stated candidly, his expression apologetic. Upon hearing Yibai's refusal, disappointment flickered in Lan Guangji's eyes. But he did not relent. After a moment of silence, seemingly resolute, he leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Major Yi, I recognize your time is invaluable. But what if I could assure you that the retrofitted 99A would genuinely see action on the battlefield?" Yibai's pupils constricted sharply, his previously relaxed posture straightening in an instant. "Battlefield? What do you mean? Are you serious? Please do not deceive me." Lan Guangji, observing the sudden sharpness in Yibai's gaze, knew he had struck the right chord. "Major Yi, do you truly believe I would jest about such matters? I would not risk tarnishing my decades of hard-earned reputation in the military for a mere whim." Yibai fixed his gaze on him, his mind racing. An individual of Lan Guangji's caliber would not speak lightly. Given his assurance, there must be substantial confidence behind his words. For any weapons designer, the ultimate aspiration is not merely to achieve impressive data on the exercise field or to bask in the glory of parades, but to see their creations tested in the crucible of real battle to withstand the trials of war. Military exercises are but simulations. They serve as platforms to gauge weapon performance, but do not serve as the ultimate testament to a weapon's worth. It is only on the most brutal and authentic battlegrounds, in life and death struggles against genuine foes, that a weapon's true value is revealed. The thought of his own technological marvels potentially making a significant impact on foreign soil, expanding the interests of the Dragon Nation and defending its dignity, ignited an uncontrollable surge of excitement within Yi Bai. All right, he exclaimed, smacking his thigh and rising to his feet. I will take on this task. Upon receiving Yi Bai's affirmative response, a radiant smile blossomed on Lan Guangji's face. As if everything had fallen into place, he made a phone call, and moments later, the heavy roar of an engine approached. A massive truck, draped in thick canvas, slowly entered the premises of the high-tech factory. As the truck came to a halt, several agile soldiers leapt from the vehicle, swiftly untied the ropes. With a sudden flourish, the canvas was pulled back, revealing a steel behemoth before Yi Bai's eyes. The pride of the Dragon Army, the 99A main battle tank. Wow! Even Yi Bai, accustomed to various high-tech marvels, couldn't help but exclaim as this genuine embodiment of warfare, reeking of gunpowder and steel, stood before him. This was indeed a national treasure, capable of obliterating foes on the battlefield. Lan Guangji had delivered it right to his doorstep. Here it is, Lan Guangji said, patting the tank's tracks, producing a deep metallic thud. You have full authority over the modifications. Just one request, maintain confidentiality. Wait, Yi Bai was taken aback again, pointing at the colossal machine and then at himself, his expression one of disbelief. General Lan, you are leaving just like that? This is the 99A. I have to handle security and confidentiality measures myself? This is quite the hands-off approach. Lan Guangji waved his hand dismissively. I have utmost confidence in Major Yi's capabilities and awareness. Moreover, as long as the most critical technology remains confidential, it matters little if some inconsequential performance parameters or interior layouts are disclosed. In fact, it could even serve to generate anticipation for our Eastern Theater, wouldn't you agree? Yi Bai instantly grasped the underlying implication of these words. Matters little? Generate anticipation? Doesn't that imply a live broadcast? Imagining himself live-streaming the modification of the main battle tank, the visual, the popularity, and the overwhelming excitement made Yi Bai's heart race uncontrollably. Ahem. Lan Guangji, observing the sudden spark in Yi Bai's eyes, cleared his throat and continued. The deposit for the modifications and upgrades amounts to a total of 80 million. I have instructed the finance department to transfer it to your company account, and it should have already been credited. The gates of the Eastern Theater stand wide open for you. With that, Lan Guangji elegantly turned and departed in an unassuming military jeep, disappearing from sight. His contributions concealed in humility. Yi Bai stood there in a daze until the sound of a bank notification pinged on his phone, finally snapping him out of his shock. A deposit of 80 million. This deal is a windfall. Suppressing his inner elation, he strode towards the 99A main battle tank, extending his hand to gently caress its cold armor. System, initiate scan. Ding. Scanning target, 99A main battle tank. Vehicle rating, C-Class. Vehicle parameters, combat weight 55 tons. Maximum highway speed 75 km/h. Primary weapon 125mm smoothbore cannon. Ammunition capacity, 41 rounds. Armor type, composite armor and explosive reactive armor. Multiple modifiable upgrade modules detected. Warning. This vehicle belongs to a high-level military unit. Modifications will consume a substantial amount of excitement value. Estimated excitement value required, 100 million. How much? Yi Bai stared at the glaring one followed by a long string of zeros on the system panel, rendered speechless. 100 million. What a ludicrous proposition. He had just spent 30 million on the analysis of the Shadow Machine armor. Where could he possibly find another 100 million? Lan Guangji certainly painted a grand picture. But this initial funding requirement is utterly outrageous. Just as Yi Bai was grappling with the burden of excitement values, the factory doors swung open once more. Brother, we're back. Sun Ling and Zhang Hongying chattered as they rushed in. However, upon spotting the imposing behemoth in the courtyard, their chatter abruptly ceased, and their beautiful eyes widened in astonishment. Wow, brother, when did you buy such a massive tank model? Zhang Hongying circled the tank, her face aglow with wonder. It looks so realistic, just like the real thing. Sun Ling, equally amazed, reached out to knock on the tank's armor, producing a clear metallic sound. Observing the girl's naive expressions, Yi Bai couldn't help but chuckle. Leaning against the tank, arms crossed, he deliberately spoke with an air of mystery. Is it possible that it is not a model, but rather the real deal? Upon hearing this, Sun Ling and Zhang Hongying's smiles froze in disbelief. They exchanged incredulous glances, then slowly, in perfect synchrony, their mouths dropped open, their expressions exaggerated as if an egg could fit inside. Chapter 309. Huh? You can modify the 99A main battle tank? Really? No way. Sun Ling stammered. This is a main battle tank, a national treasure. How could it possibly be in our yard? Yi Bai bestowed a meaningful smile upon the still-dazed duo. Words alone cannot prove truth. Experience reveals knowledge. Would you like to come up and experience it for yourselves? This invitation held an irresistible allure for any citizen of Longhua. As a descendant of heroes, Zhang Hongying's eyes sparkled with excitement. She was the first to react, discarding her backpack and clambering onto the tank with enthusiasm. Sun Ling hesitated momentarily, but ultimately succumbed to her curiosity, following suit. Wow, this is so cool, Zhang Hongying exclaimed from the gunner's position. Her small face alight with exhilaration as she touched the cold fire control system. Mimicking scenes from movies, she peered through the sight, grasped the control stick, and dramatically pressed the red fire button aimed at a large tree outside the factory. However, the earth-shattering cannon fire she anticipated did not resound. Only a faint click echoed from within the cannon's chamber. Why is there no response? Zhang Hongying puzzledly pressed the button a few more times. Yet the results remained unchanged. Sun Ling, witnessing this, let out a sigh of relief and patted her chest, matter-of-factly stating, I told you, it must be fake. Look, there are no shells. How could it be real? No, it's real. Zhang Hongying firmly shook her head, raising her gaze to Sun Ling. Everything here is too lifelike. Every button, every gauge feels authentic. It must be real. It's just that it hasn't been loaded with ammunition. Observing the two girls engaged in fervent debate, Yi Bai chuckled. All right, let us not argue. Whether it's real or not, let the viewers across the nation help us determine that. With that, he produced the live-streaming equipment, aimed it at the tank, and initiated the broadcast. After a brief moment of silence, the chat erupted like a volcanic eruption. Holy cow! Am I seeing things? What is that? 99A. Is that the 99A main battle tank? Ye God! You actually brought back a real one. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Last time it was a firefighting drone, and now it's a main battle tank? Are you planning to live stream building an aircraft carrier next? I'm calling the police. No, I'll contact the military. No, forget it. I'll just call aliens. The Earth can no longer accommodate Ye God. The live audience surged at an unprecedented pace. Within mere minutes, the online viewership surpassed 100,000 and continued to escalate at a terrifying rate. Watching the excitement values soar like a rolling snowball, Yi Bai felt elated in his heart, yet maintained a calm facade. Addressing the camera, he spoke nonchalantly. Everyone, please remain calm. This is indeed a genuine 99A main battle tank. However, it is not one I purchased. Rather, it is an order placed by the Eastern Theater's military, commissioning us at Yunxiao Technology to undertake a comprehensive modification and upgrade. This explanation did not quell the fervor in the chat. Instead, it was akin to pouring cold water into a boiling pot, instantly igniting the chaos. What? The military placed an order, asking you to modify the 99A? My goodness. Ye God, you've become so formidable that even the strongest active-duty main battle tank dares to let you take the reins. 66,666. What prestige. In the entire nation, who else can compare? I finally understand why the Southern Theater was so formidable during the military exercises. It turns out it was all orchestrated by Ye God. Now even the Eastern Theater is seeking your expertise. That's incredible. The online community was utterly exhilarated. If modifying civilian vehicles and fire trucks was mere child's play, then altering the nation's top-tier land combat vehicle was undoubtedly the most direct and authoritative acknowledgement of Yi Bai's technical prowess. This was no longer just impressive. This was a true national treasure, a paragon of excellence. Facing the tsunami of comments in the live stream, Yi Bai smiled slightly. Since everyone is so enthusiastic today, I shall make an exception and take you all on an immersive tour of our Longhua Army's pride, the 99A main battle tank. With that, he directed the camera towards the tank's exterior. Behold, here lies the frontal armor of the tank, employing our nation's most advanced composite armor technology. As for the specific materials and thickness, that remains classified information, not to be disclosed. However, I can assure you that its defensive capabilities are undoubtedly among the finest in the world, capable of withstanding the vast majority of anti-tank weaponry currently in existence. The viewers in the live broadcast, particularly the military enthusiasts, were utterly captivated. Wow, to see this up close is exhilarating. Yi Shen's explanations are far more relatable than those of military experts. They're so easy to understand. My mom asked why I was kneeling to watch the live stream, and I replied that I was attending a national defense education class. As Yi Bai elaborated, he deftly maneuvered the camera to showcase every intricate detail of the 99A. From the robust 125mm smoothbore cannon to the imposing remote-controlled weapon station atop the turret and the broad, sturdy tracks. He skillfully sidestepped all elements related to core secrets and internal structures, yet artfully displayed the 99A's formidable and unparalleled deterrent power. With the external tour concluded, Yi Bai wore a mysterious smile as he transitioned the camera's focus to the tank's interior. Wow! When the narrow cockpit, brimming with various sophisticated instruments, along with the Gunner S and Commander S positions, was revealed in such clarity to millions of viewers, the live stream was instantly inundated with exclamations of awe and astonishment. Oh my heavens! Finally, I've seen the inside of the 99A. Worth a lifetime. This is incredible. Screens and buttons everywhere. It's the ultimate fantasy for man. This is more thrilling than a military exhibition. At such events, you can only look from the outside. You can't even touch it. Following Yi Shun, I can actually sit in the cockpit. Yi Bai secured the camera and took his place in the Commander S seat, enthusiastically introducing the various functional areas to the audience. Look here, this is the panoramic sight for the Commander, offering a 360-degree view of the battlefield. Next to it is our fire control system, though the specifics remain classified. And here, the gunner's control panel. Do you see it? It's entirely digital and information-driven, making it even easier to operate than a standard vehicle. Of course, achieving accuracy requires countless hours of rigorous training. The atmosphere of the live stream surged to unprecedented heights, with viewer numbers skyrocketing. In Yi Bai's mind, the figure representing the shock value soared like a rocket, jumping wildly upward. Ultimately, as Yi Bai concluded this hour-long broadcast, the back-end data brought him immense joy. The live stream garnered a staggering shock value of 12 million. However, as the initial thrill faded, Yi Bai gazed at his account balance, which had just surpassed the 100 million mark, and could not help but furrow his brow. There remains a considerable distance to reach 100 million. Chapter 310, Police Card Dark Knight Goddess Edition. I must devise a method to accumulate more shock value. Yi Bai pondered, pacing back and forth in the factory. While the shock value generated from the live modification of the 99A was remarkable, it was ultimately a one-time event. To ensure a continuous influx, he needed to unveil a new, groundbreaking technological product that could ignite excitement across the internet. His gaze inadvertently fell upon several samples of firefighting machine guns stacked in the corner. An idea flashed through his mind like lightning. The previously launched firefighting helicopter, rocket launcher, and machine gun had all achieved tremendous success. Yet, these belonged to individual or small-scale equipment. What if these advanced technologies were integrated into a genuine, heavy-duty fire truck? What cataclysmic effects would that produce? System, initiate Phase 2 of the laboratory. Develop an independent research proposal aimed at creating a revolutionary urban main battle firefighting vehicle. Command received. Proposal development in progress. Proposal complete. Dragon King multifunctional urban rescue platform. Core modules. Integrated drone hive system. High-pressure pulse water cannon. Breaching assault missile. All-terrain tracked chassis. Required shock value for development, 10 million. Required time for development, 7 days. Upon reviewing the proposal, Yi Bai nodded in satisfaction. In just 7 days, a brand new, nationally shocking firefighting tool could be developed. This endeavor was bound to yield substantial profits. With the new research project confirmed, the weight on Yi Bai's mind was finally lifted. He then recalled another matter. Glancing at the impressive 99, a main battle tank parked in the yard brought to mind the adorable yet troubled expression of Su Ning at the factory entrance. After putting her in such a predicament previously, he felt compelled to offer her some form of compensation. Moreover, as a frontline police officer, if he could provide her with a sufficiently safe and powerful dedicated vehicle, he would feel more at ease. It was perfect timing to modify a D-class vehicle, allowing him to harvest some additional shock value. A win-win situation indeed. Resolved, Yi Bai promptly dialed Secretary Dekang's number. Hello, Secretary Dekang. I hope I'm not interrupting your work. Ha, it's Yi Bai? You're quite a rarity. Feel free to share your concerns. The cheerful voice of Secretary Dekang resonated through the line. Well, Secretary, I have some new ideas and would like to experiment with a police vehicle, while also contributing to our Jinghai District's law enforcement system. I wonder if the Bureau has any old vehicles available? Yi Bai's words were quite diplomatic. However, upon hearing this, Secretary Dekang immediately grasped Yi Bai's intentions. This was not merely a test. It was clearly a generous offering to the police department. Yes, of course. His tone transformed into one of enthusiastic eagerness, even tinged with excitement. I'll arrange it right away. Secretary Dekang was remarkably efficient. Within half an hour of hanging up, a tow truck delivered a weathered police vehicle to the entrance of the high-tech factory. Yi Bai observed the vehicle before him, unable to suppress a grimace. This was far from an old car. It resembled a heap of scrap metal destined for the junkyard. The body was riddled with dents and scratches, with rust showing in several places. One of the emergency lights was shattered, and the bumper was haphazardly wrapped in tape, as if it could fall off at any moment. Yi Bai seriously doubted whether this contraption could even start. Major Yi, the vehicle has arrived. The tow truck driver handed over a rusted key. Secretary DeKong specifically instructed that this car is our bureau's most distinguished achievement, having pursued bandits and collided with drug traffickers, and is soon to be honorably retired. The secretary said only such a distinguished vehicle is worthy of your expertise. Listening to this, Yi Bai found himself both amused and bemused. Goodness, Secretary DeKong is truly a talent. He spun a tale about a vehicle on the brink of retirement, giving me face while conveniently disposing of a wasted asset. He certainly understands the nuances of human relationships. System scan. Ding. Scanning target. Santana 2000 police vehicle imminently scrapped. Vehicle rating, D-class. Detected multiple irreversible structural damages. Performance severely degraded. Unfazed by the system's dire notifications. Yi Bai commanded, proceed with the D-class customized modification design. Command received. D-class proposal customization in progress. Proposal complete. Dark Knight Goddess customized edition. This time, Yi Bai spared no expense, opting for the highest specifications available. Core Module 1. Phantom Hybrid Power System, featuring an enhanced 20T turbocharged engine and independent wheel hub motors for all four wheels. Moreover, it seamlessly integrates a low-temperature plasma nitrogen acceleration module, capable of unleashing a terrifying thrust in an instant, enabling a brief yet exhilarating supersonic dash. Core Module 2. Valkyrie Nanomecha Transformation System. The vehicle structure is reconstructed using memory metals and a composite of nanofibers, appearing unremarkable in its ordinary state. However, in combat mode, the chassis can undergo localized transformations, deploying multi-barreled non-lethal weapon launchers from the roof and sides, while critical areas of the vehicle rise to reveal additional armor, forming a rudimentary battle mecha configuration. Core Module 3. Eagle Eye Comprehensive Reconnaissance System. This system amalgamates millimeter-wave radar, laser radar, and high-resolution optical probes, augmented with a quantum AI chip, enabling 360-degree environmental awareness without blind spots. Through a data link, it can automatically identify, lock onto, and track multiple suspicious targets. Core Module 4. Judgment Intelligent Fire Control Attack System. Working in conjunction with the reconnaissance system, it can autonomously control weapon modules to launch various non-lethal munitions, such as stun grenades and tear gas canisters, against locked targets, achieving precise strikes and control. Total shock value required, 12 million. Observing this lavish modification proposal, Yi Bai nodded in satisfaction. Though the expenditure was substantial, the vehicle's final quality would undoubtedly reach a D-class, approaching the performance of a C-class vehicle. With the proposal finalized, Yi Bai sprang into action. Under the astonishing manufacturing capabilities of the high-tech factory, everything became remarkably efficient. In merely 3 days, the once rusty and near-defunct Santana police car underwent a complete and transformative rebirth. The brand-new Night Goddess stood silently at the center of the factory. Task accomplished. Yi Bai clapped his hands, admiring his masterpiece, and then dialed Secretary DeKang's number once more. Half an hour later, a police motorcycle roared up and came to a steady halt at the factory entrance. The rider was none other than Su Ning. Chapter 311. While others cosplay as police. You are the real deal. Upon seeing Yi Bai, Su Ning's strikingly handsome face instantly reflected a mix of exasperation. She shot Yi Bai an annoyed glance. Speak up. What commotion have you stirred up this time? I am here on behalf of the police department to inspect the modified police car mentioned by Secretary DeKong. As she spoke, she stepped into the factory, her eyes scanning the surroundings. What a mysterious vehicle. Secretary has been praising it to the skies over the phone. Yi Bai smiled and stepped aside, revealing the sleek, all-black Night Goddess parked behind him. Behold, it is this one. As Su Ning's gaze fell upon the vehicle, she was momentarily taken aback. Although the contours of the Santana were still vaguely discernible, the overall aura had undergone a radical transformation. The body, smooth and deep as obsidian, boasted a futuristic aerodynamic design, with sharp lines subtly hidden in the details, resembling a black panther lying in wait in the shadows, both elegant and exuding an unmistakable air of danger. Is this the nearly scrapped Santana? Su Ning circled the vehicle in disbelief, reaching out to cautiously touch the cold, smooth surface. It is no longer called Santana. Yi Bai crossed his arms, a proud smile gracing his lips as he began his introduction. I have given it a new name, Night Goddess. It is equipped with a Phantom hybrid power system, integrating a low-temperature plasma nitrogen acceleration module that can unleash terrifying thrust in an instant, achieving brief supersonic dashes sufficient to catch up to any target. The vehicle's body is reconstructed with memory metals and nanofiber composites, rendering it not only indestructible, but also capable of deploying multi-barreled non-lethal weapon launchers from the roof and sides in battle mode. While additional armor rises to form a rudimentary battle mecha configuration, it is also outfitted with the Eagle Eye Comprehensive Reconnaissance System and the Judgment Intelligent Fire Control System, capable of automatically locking onto and employing stun grenades and binding nets against multiple targets for precise strikes and control. With every word Yi Bai spoke, Su Ning's eyes widened a fraction more. Supersonic dash? Mecha transformation? Automated reconnaissance and attack? This is no longer a mere police vehicle. It is clearly an armed-to-the-teeth future war machine. As a seasoned frontline detective, she understood all too well what these capabilities meant in actual combat. High-speed pursuits, urban combat, controlling rioters, tasks that previously required immense risks and even bloodshed to accomplish would seemingly become effortless in the presence of this night goddess. This vehicle. Su Ning's voice trembled slightly as she looked at Yi Bai, her eyes brimming with indescribable excitement. It is practically tailored for us frontline detectives. Indeed, it is remarkable. She praised sincerely, her gaze filled with longing as she regarded the vehicle. Yi Bai observed her expression closely, feigning nonchalance as he shrugged and smiled. Yes. It is a pity that such an excellent vehicle will end up being assigned to some outstanding officer in the department. Upon hearing this, the spark in Su Ning's eyes dimmed instantly, and her tone carried a hint of unnoticeable disappointment. Yes, such a fine vehicle should be utilized by those who need it most, those brothers who are out there on the front line every day. Now that I am a team leader, I spend most of my time in the office. I probably one day have the chance to drive it. Although promotion is a good thing. For someone like her who loves being on the front lines and yearns to charge into battle, leaving the familiar battlefield is ultimately a regret. Yi Bai, unaware of Su Ning's thoughts, was entirely focused on surprising her and failed to notice her melancholy. Theoretical discussions pale in comparison to first-hand experience. Team leader Su, come on. Hop in and experience the allure of our night goddess. Su Ning hesitated for a moment, but ultimately took her place in the driver's seat. However, the moment she settled in, she was once again struck by astonishment. She discovered that she needed no adjustments to the seat's position, the angle of the backrest, or even the height of the steering wheel. Upon sitting down, it was as if the seat had been meticulously customized to her physique and driving habits, fitting her every curve and angle with millimeter precision, providing unparalleled comfort. I scanned your previous driving habits and made data adjustments to the seat, Yi Bai explained casually as he took his place in the passenger seat. A warmth spread through Su Ning's heart, and she chose not to say more. Grasping the steering wheel, as she pressed the accelerator, a surge of power, dramatically different from the decrepit Santana, flooded through the wheels in an instant. The steering wheel felt light yet precise, the chassis solid and stable. Whether accelerating, turning, or braking, the vehicle's feedback was nothing short of perfect. The sensation of unity between driver and machine had never been so vivid. This vehicle was truly the perfect dream ride for her. Yet, as she contemplated this, she couldn't help but let out a gentle sigh, her eyes betraying a hint of uncontainable regret. What are you sighing about? Yi Bai inquired from the passenger seat. Nothing. Su Ning shook her head, bringing the vehicle to a steady halt, her tone laced with a touch of melancholy. Yi Bai observed her demeanor, chuckling silently. He retrieved the live streaming equipment, expertly setting it up, and then turned to the perplexed Su Ning. Team leader Su, cooperate with me and help me hold a new car launch event. Don't worry, I want to put you in a difficult position. Without waiting for Su Ning's response, he promptly initiated the live stream. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Your beloved Yi God has once again graced us with his presence. As the live stream began, an influx of eager fans flooded in. However, the moment they glimpsed the scene, pandemonium erupted. There, within the frame, sat Yi Bai in a sleek, futuristic black sedan. To their astonishment, seated in the driver's seat was a strikingly beautiful woman clad in a police uniform, exuding an air of elegance and confidence. A luxury car, a stunning beauty, and in the imperial capital, no less. The situation was electrifying, especially with the woman adorned in a police uniform. These elements combined set off a whirlwind of excitement among the audience. Wow, what am I witnessing? Yi God is incredible. He always manages to surprise us with something new. This time, he has gone for a uniform? Who is this lady? She is absolutely stunning. That beauty and grace are simply unmatched. A luxury car paired with a beautiful woman, and a uniformed one at that. Ye God, you are my idol. The popularity of the live stream skyrocketed as if propelled by a rocket, effortlessly surpassing 50,000 viewers in under a minute. The barrage of comments flooded the screen, nearly overwhelming it. Chapter 312. Is this a police car or a mecha? Amidst the flood of comments expressing desires for the woman's contact information, Yi Bai earnestly addressed the camera. Hey, everyone, calm down. You can eat whatever you like, but let us keep our words in check. What uniform? This ISNT some cosplay. If you keep talking like that, I might actually get arrested by the police. His humorous denial only incited laughter in the live stream, with the audience clearly unconvinced. Haha, ye God, stop pretending. We all know. Exactly. How could such a beautiful lady possibly be a real police officer? Ye God, just give in and share her WeChat with us. However, amidst the playful banter, an observant viewer made a striking comment. Wait, I think I've seen this lady before. Oh my, I remember now. She really is a police officer. Is that true? I need to check. Soon. A knowledgeable netizen unearthed news photos and videos of Su Ning during her previous duty in Huadu. Upon comparison, everyone was astonished to discover that the elegant woman in the live stream was indeed a bona fide police officer. This revelation dramatically shifted the atmosphere in the live stream. Those who had been fervently requesting contact information suddenly fell silent, and the comments transformed into a chorus of respect and positivity. Salute to the People's Police. Thank you for your hard work, officer. So you really are a police sister. My apologies. I meant to say how stunning the police sister looks in her uniform. Witnessing this dramatic shift, Yi Bai couldn't help but chuckle. He then turned the camera towards Su Ning and cheerfully asked, All right, crisis averted. Officer Su, as the first global test driver of this night goddess, could you share with our viewers how it drives? Facing the camera, Su Ning, though still somewhat unaccustomed, replied earnestly. It drives exceptionally well. Its power response, handling precision, and comfort far exceed any vehicle I've ever driven. More importantly, the features Yi Bai just introduced are immensely valuable for frontline officers like us. Looking at the steering wheel, her eyes gleamed with longing. If we officers could drive such vehicles in the future, it would make apprehending criminals much easier, and the safety of my colleagues would be significantly enhanced. The audience resonated with her sentiments. However, at that moment, a cacophony of blaring horns and screeching tires suddenly erupted from the highway not far from the factory. Yi Bai furrowed his brow and swiftly switched the drone's camera feed. On the highway, a heart-stopping chase was unfolding. A white BMW 3 Series was recklessly weaving through traffic, attempting to force a black Mercedes G-Class off the road. The owner of the Mercedes, clearly irate, had reached his breaking point after several attempts to be pushed aside. With a deafening roar, the massive Mercedes G-Class violently swerved, like an enraged bull, and rammed into the side of the BMW, aiming to pin it against the central guardrail. Oh no. Su Ning's expression shifted dramatically. This was a major thoroughfare in the imperial capital, with heavy traffic. If these two vehicles collided, it would not only result in a severe accident, but also cause a traffic paralysis extending for miles. She instinctively moved to open the car door. But she knew there was no time. As the two out-of-control vehicles were on the verge of crashing, calamity loomed. At that moment, Yi Bai, seated in the passenger seat, his eyes gleaming with determination, bellowed towards the central console, Night Goddess. Activate mecha mode. A deep hum resonated. In the blink of an eye, the once stationary black police car underwent a terrifying transformation that would be etched in the memories of all who witnessed it. The Night Goddess's body began to disassemble and reconstruct like a transformer. The roof flipped upwards, and the side doors unfolded, transforming into sturdy shoulder armor. The front and rear of the vehicle folded down, extending powerful mechanical legs. From beneath the chassis emerged robust mechanical arms. Within mere seconds, a towering 4-meter-tall humanoid battle mech rose majestically on the highway. It then leapt forward, directly restraining both vehicles. My heavens, what is that? All the drivers who slammed on their brakes were left speechless, their minds blank as they beheld this steel giant that had descended like a divine instrument. The drivers of the BMW and G-Class, on the brink of collision, were paralyzed with fear, unable to grip the steering wheel. They had intended to unleash a torrent of curses at whoever dared obstruct their path. But upon raising their eyes and seeing this imposing figure, gleaming with cold metallic sheen and towering over their vehicles, all anger and profanity were extinguished by an overwhelming fear. A mech. This is unbelievable. What just happened? A police car suddenly transformed into a mech to mediate. Meanwhile, the live stream erupted in chaos. All viewers were left dumbfounded, mouths agape, as they could only watch the screen in awe at this sci-fi spectacle, forgetting to comment. Is this even possible? They promised to modify the police car, yet they transformed it into a mecha instead. As everyone was enveloped in shock, Su Ning, inside the mech's cockpit, quickly regained her composure after a brief moment of astonishment. She immediately addressed the bewildered drivers through the mech's external speaker. Your actions have severely violated traffic regulations, constituting reckless driving. To prevent more serious criminal consequences, I will initiate an emergency forced displacement of your vehicles. As soon as the words left her mouth, Su Ning deftly manipulated the two robust mechanical arms of the Night Goddess, firmly pressing down on the roofs of both the G-Class and the BMW 3 Series. Following this, in the astonished eyes of the onlookers, the humanoid mech effortlessly lifted the two cars, which together weighed several tons, as if they were mere carry-on luggage. With measured strides, she placed them gently on the roadside. The entire process flowed seamlessly, enveloped in a profound silence. Both the live audience and those watching from home were left utterly astounded by this unimaginable spectacle. Unbelievable, exclaimed someone, igniting a wave of excitement among the crowd. On the highway, the drivers stuck in traffic momentarily forgot their frustrations, eagerly pulling out their phones to capture footage of the Night Goddess as it transformed back into vehicle form after its intervention. Inside the cockpit, Su Ning quickly regained her professional composure after the initial shock and elation. She guided the now car-shaped Night Goddess toward the two vehicles that had been moved to the roadside. As the window descended, Su Ning's strikingly cold visage appeared before the two bewildered drivers. Name, driver's license, and vehicle registration, she commanded, her voice low yet imbued with undeniable authority. The drivers, one a burly G-Class operator named Wang Biao, adorned with a gold chain, and the other a bespectacled, seemingly refined BMW driver named Li Hao, had lost their earlier bravado and trembled as they presented their credentials. Now confess. Su Ning's piercing gaze swept over their faces. Why were you maliciously tailing each other on the highway? Speak clearly. Honesty will be met with leniency, while resistance will be met with severity. Officer, it was him. He provoked me first. Li Hao interjected, pointing at Wang Biao, his face a mixture of indignation and anger. I was driving normally when he squeezed by in his G-Class and shouted at me. I couldn't take it anymore and retaliated. You're lying. Wang Biao erupted, his voice rising as he retorted. You were driving like a tortoise, hogging the fast lane. I honked to alert you, and you glared at me through your rearview mirror. You initiated the provocation. The two men continued to bicker, shifting blame back and forth before Su Ning and millions of viewers across the nation. Her brow furrowed in concentration. Just then, Yi Bai, seated in the passenger seat, spoke up leisurely. What are you arguing about? Each has their own reasoning. If you wish to uncover the truth, it's quite simple. He gestured toward the front of the Night Goddess. My vehicle is equipped with 4 high-definition dashcams, which recorded everything that just transpired. We can simply review the footage to ascertain who instigated the conflict. Upon hearing this, the two men fell silent. Wang Biao's expression froze, and beads of cold sweat emerged on his brow as his complexion turned ashen at an observable rate. Su Ning, noticing his subtle change, promptly accessed the dashcam footage through the central display. The high-definition images began to stream live, revealing the events that had unfolded. The footage showed Li Hao's BMW cruising in the fast lane at a reasonable speed, not nearly as slow as Wang Biao had claimed. Then, Wang Biao's G-Class aggressively surged forward, with the window rolled down, as he leaned out, seemingly hurling insults. The most crucial moment was captured next. Wang Biao inhaled deeply, puffed out his cheeks, and with a swift motion, spat a thick stream of phlegm, which arced perfectly through the half-open window of Li Hao's car, landing squarely on his face. The viewers erupted in disbelief and outrage. Unbelievable. What a disgrace. If that were me, I would have retaliated immediately. No wonder the BMW driver was so furious. This is an utter humiliation. The truth was laid bare. Su Ning turned off the video, her expression as icy as frost. She stepped before Wang Biao, her voice frigid. Now, what do you have to say for yourself? Wang Biao stammered, his face flushed, unable to utter a word. Apologize to this gentleman immediately. Su Ning's tone brooked no argument. Yet, after a brief moment of panic, Wang Biao regained his composure. Glancing at Su Ning's youthful visage and finding a renewed sense of bravado, casting a dismissive glance at her badge, he scoffed, apologize? For what? It was just a spit. What's the big deal? Besides, what authority do you, a mere precinct officer, have over me? I know leaders in your bureau. What rank do you think you are to command me? Hearing Wang Biao's provocative and disdainful words, Su Ning's expression darkened, but she remained unfazed by his arrogance, calmly responding. I am the team leader of the Criminal Investigation Unit at the Jinghai District Public Security Bureau, holding the rank of second-class officer. Her declaration of rank, while not the pinnacle within the vast law enforcement hierarchy, was nonetheless significant for a district-level team leader, underscoring her exceptional capabilities and experience. However, Wang Biao's contempt only deepened upon hearing her title. He chuckled derisively, looking down at her, and remarked, "Second-class officer? Team leader? I thought you were someone of importance. Turns out, you aren't even a high-ranking officer." He pointed to himself, addressing both Su Ning and the live audience with a haughty demeanor. "Let me make it clear. Someone of your rank has no authority to investigate me." This statement was not only a personal affront to Su Ning, but a blatant challenge to the entire law enforcement authority. The viewers in the live stream were incensed by his audacity. Unbelievable. How can he dismiss a second-class officer? Who does he think he is? Is he the son of some big shot? Regardless of who he is, disrespecting the police will undoubtedly lead to his downfall. As the audience murmured in outrage, Yi Bai, who had been silently seated in the vehicle, slowly opened the door and stepped out. Approaching Wang Biao, he wore an enigmatic smile and calmly asked, with such confidence, "You must have quite the background. What is your rank?" Wang Biao, sensing Yi Bai's calm demeanor, puffed out his chest and raised his chin, responding with a boastful tone. "Me? I don't hold any official rank. I'm not part of the system." He paused deliberately, soaking in the curious gazes of the crowd, before nonchalantly revealing his trump card. "But my father is a staff member at the Capitol Police Department, a legitimate division-level official." Upon concluding his statement, he deliberately emphasized the phrase section-level cadre, as if those 4 words were a prestigious title capable of crushing everyone beneath its weight. However, once he finished speaking, an eerie silence enveloped the venue and the live stream for several seconds. This was swiftly followed by an explosion of comments in the live chat, erupting with unprecedented fervor and almost frenzied speed. "Ha ha ha. Section-level cadre. My goodness, that is hilarious. I thought his father was at least a division-level official. But it turns out he is just a clerk? This is it. This is absolutely the end. What a father to have, truly unprecedented. They should have just shot it on the wall. This is a clear case of a father dragging his whole family down. A section-level clerk in the capital? What gall does he have to challenge a second-level police officer? Did Li Yuchen give him the courage?" Countless jeers and laughter overwhelmed the entire live stream, as everyone found Wang Biao's self-deprecating blunder utterly amusing. Yet, Wang Biao remained oblivious to this reaction. He gazed at the silent Yi Bai and Su Ning, believing they were intimidated by his father's title, which only inflated his ego further. Clearing his throat, he adopted a condescending demeanor and said to Yi Bai and Su Ning, "So are you scared? In light of your youth and ignorance, I hold this against you today. Now, both of you, apologize to me and my car immediately, and we can consider this matter settled." Wang Biao's smug demeanor not only elicited uproarious laughter from the audience in the live stream, but also infuriated the nearby BMW owner, Li Hao, to the point of trembling. "You are utterly lawless." Li Hao pointed at Wang Biao, then at the visibly distressed Su Ning, and exclaimed, "Officer, you are public servants. Your duty is to serve the people and uphold justice. Today's incident is clear-cut. He spat on me publicly, insulted me, and now he is openly threatening law enforcement. If you let this slide, what law will remain?" As he grew more agitated, he even took out his phone, directing it towards Yi Bai and Su Ning. "If you cannot handle this fairly, I will record everything that happened today and expose it online. Let the people of the nation see how the police in the capital serve the public. Let everyone be held accountable." Li Hao's words ignited the emotions of the live stream audience. "Yes, support the BMW guy. He must be punished. Don't be afraid, officer. We are here to back you up. The netizens across the nation stand with you." In response to Li Hao's righteous inquiries, Yi Bai not only remained unperturbed but smiled and nodded in agreement, saying, "This gentleman is correct. Serving the people is our duty." With that, he leisurely took out his phone in front of everyone. Wang Biao, seeing Yi Bai's actions, wore a sneer, believing he was about to call someone to plead for leniency. "What is this? Now you're scared? Wanting to make a call for help?" Wang Biao crossed his arms and sarcastically remarked, "Let me tell you, it's useless. In this territory of Jinghai District, my father is the law." Ignoring Wang Biao's taunts, Yi Bai simply dialed a number. The call connected almost instantly. "Hello, Secretary de Kong? This is Yi Bai." His tone was as casual as if he were conversing with a friend, relaxed and informal. "I apologize for disturbing you so late. I'm facing a bit of a predicament." In just a few sentences, he succinctly conveyed the events that had unfolded to Secretary de Kong on the other end of the line. Upon hearing the account, Secretary de Kong's voice turned grave without hesitation. "This is outrageous. Absolutely intolerable. Yi Bai, rest assured, You and Comrade Su Ning stay right where you are. I will be there immediately. After hanging up, Yi Bai returned his phone to his pocket and flashed a benevolent smile at Wang Biao. However, Wang Biao was now laughing even more heartily. Ha ha ha. Secretary Dekong. He appeared to be hearing the funniest joke of the century. Pointing at Yi Bai and laughing to the point of tears. I say, young man, you really know how to put on a show. Secretary Dekong, why don't you just say you know the military chief instead? You, a young brat with a regional accent. How could you possibly know our new secretary of Jinghai District? There's a limit to your pretentiousness, isn't there? He had no belief in Yi Bai's claim. To him, this phone call was merely a desperate last-ditch effort after running out of tricks. However, his smile did not last long. Within 10 minutes, several police cars with flashing lights, accompanied by a uniquely licensed black Hongqi sedan, sped towards the scene, executing a flawless drift as they arrived. The car door swung open, and Secretary Dekong stepped out, his expression one of fury, striding purposefully from the Hongqi vehicle. Upon seeing the familiar yet authoritative face of Secretary Dekong, often featured in local news, Wang Biao's grin instantly froze. He actually came? Wang Biao's mind went blank. A profound sense of foreboding coursing through him like electricity. He instinctively trembled as he fumbled for his phone, nervously searching for information on Baidu about the secretary of Jinghai District. The first result that appeared was Secretary Dekong's official introduction, complete with a standard ID photo alongside it. Wang Biao compared the image on his phone with the middle-aged man approaching Yi Bai, who bore an expression of both apology and respect. They were identical. Absolutely identical. Holy crap. Wang Biao felt the world around him darken, his head spinning as his phone slipped from his grasp, shattering upon impact with the ground. He watched in disbelief as the legendary new secretary extended his hand to the young man he had derisively referred to as a little brat, as if he were a subordinate addressing a superior. In that moment, Wang Biao's entire worldview was ruthlessly shattered. Chapter 315, Returning Su Ning Home. Did Yi Bai win the beautiful girl? Comrades Yi Bai and Su Ning, I sincerely apologize for the distress you have endured. It is my failure to maintain order that has allowed such troublemakers to act so brazenly. Secretary Dekong approached the two, his face filled with regret. You. What is your name? Who is your father? Secretary Dekong's voice was not loud, yet it carried an undeniable authority, weighing heavily upon Wang Biao's heart like a mountain. At that moment, Wang Biao had lost all semblance of his earlier bravado. His legs went weak, and he trembled uncontrollably, utterly at a loss in the face of the secretary's inquiry. Why had he pretended to be so grand just moments ago? Previously, someone had boasted about having a father named Li Gang, leading to the swift downfall of a deputy provincial police chief. He hadn't even been drinking. So why had he acted so pompous? Yet, he considered himself somewhat clever for not revealing his father's name. With that thought, Wang Biao gave himself a mental pat on the back. And my father is just my father. Yi Bai, overhearing this, nearly burst into laughter. Well, just a moment ago, he was flaunting his section-level cadre father as if it were a royal decree, and now, when it came time to confront the truth, he has suddenly grown modest? The truth is, it has indeed become rather excessive. Secretary Dekong, a figure of such stature, how could he be unaware of Wang Biao's intentions? His gaze grew icy, and turning around, he surveyed everyone present, including Yi Bai, who was still broadcasting live. With a tone that was resolute and commanding, he declared, I do not care who his father is. In my Jinghai district, on this land of the capital, all are equal before the law. Today, let me be clear. Whether his father is merely a lowly clerk or even the director of the municipal bureau or the chief of the police department, this matter must be handled in accordance with public duty. With a sweeping gesture, Secretary Dekong commanded, bring both of these individuals suspected of dangerous driving back to the station. We will deal with them according to the law, with no leniency. Several police officers promptly stepped forward, restraining the still-dazed Wang Biao and the conflicted Li Hao. Wang Biao's face turned ashen. He realized he had struck an iron wall this time. He couldn't help but wonder whether this would affect his father. The car he drove was also not something his father could withstand scrutiny over. If it were merely a traffic incident, there would be no issues. But if it were to implicate his father, although he never mentioned his father's name and had not engaged in any overt corruption, surely that would not be problematic, right? There are no legal stipulations against boasting about one's father, are there? On the other hand, Li Hao, the owner of the BMW, although also taken away for chasing another vehicle, stood tall. Before being escorted to the police car, he looked at Secretary Dekong and, gritting his teeth, said, Secretary, I admit my guilt for violating traffic laws by chasing another vehicle, and I am willing to bear all criminal responsibility. However, This incident was instigated by his humiliation of me. If he does not apologize to me in person today for his actions, even if I end up in prison, I will pursue this matter to the very end. Secretary de Kong regarded him seriously, nodding solemnly. Rest assured, the law will not wrong a good person, nor will it let a bad one escape. The apology he owes you is your rightful compensation, and not a single bit will be less. Having said that, Secretary de Kong turned and left to efficiently handle the subsequent matters. Thus, the farce on the road came to a close. The police car sped away, and the onlookers gradually dispersed, leaving only Su Ning and Yi Bai, who remained quietly seated in the Night Goddess. Su Ning gazed out at the now tranquil night, and after a long moment, let out a soft sigh. She turned to Yi Bai and sincerely remarked, "Yi Bai, you are truly remarkable. Whether it was in the Flower Capital or now in the Hidden Dragon and Crouching Tiger of the capital, you always managed to navigate effortlessly and carve out your own path. Unlike me, lacking power and influence, who merely stumbled into the police academy due to good grades and became a trainee officer. Every step of the way has been fraught with caution, terrified of saying the wrong thing or doing something that might offend the wrong person. Wang Biao's arrogant demeanor tonight made me acutely aware of that profound sense of powerlessness. The grassroots level is challenging, especially in a place like the capital, where a single brick could bring down several department heads. For someone like me at the grassroots level, it is even more daunting. A casual handling of an individual might connect back to a certain leader-esque relative. One must either bow to the powerful or uphold their principles. It seems there is no choice, yet in reality, there is no choice at all. Su Ning's principles were still quite strong. When she faced Yi Bai, she had never contemplated using her position for personal gain. Hearing her somewhat melancholic words, Yi Bai felt a swell of compassion. He turned to her with a smile, gazing into her beautiful eyes, and earnestly said, "Right now, don't you have me as your support? Let us not forget. We forged a deep revolutionary friendship back in the Flower Capital." Upon hearing this, Su Ning's eyes glistened with tears. She abruptly flung open the car door and stepped out. Yi Bai, puzzled by her sudden actions, watched as she circled to the passenger side and yanked the door open. Then, to his astonishment, she suddenly embraced him tightly. She buried her head deeply in his chest, warm tears quickly soaking his shoulder. The girl's body trembled slightly. Yi Bai remained silent, simply reaching out to gently pat her back. Then, with his other hand, he quietly turned off the still-live phone. After a long while, Su Ning had ceased her sobbing. Though her eyes remained slightly red, leaning quietly against the passenger seat, she did not specify where she wanted to go, and Yi Bai did not ask. He merely drove the Night Goddess aimlessly through the city streets. Eventually, Su Ning softly spoke, her voice still carrying a hint of nasal congestion, "Please take me home." Following Su Ning's directions, the Night Goddess smoothly entered an older, somewhat run-down neighborhood. Upon arrival, it was a modest two-bedroom apartment, simply furnished yet immaculately tidy. Filled with a sense of home, she retrieved 2 cans of beer from the refrigerator and handed one to Yi Bai. "Let us have a drink." The two sat on the living room sofa, the cold beer cans in their hands offering a refreshing chill. Perhaps it was the influence of alcohol, or perhaps the emotional upheaval of the night had been too great, but Su Ning gradually began to open up. Su Ning's family had once been a quintessential middle-class family in the city, and one could say they were quite happy. Her father was an executive at a state-owned enterprise, full of vigor, while her mother was a talented researcher devoted to her field. They were both exceptional, yet also exceedingly busy, leaving little time to attend to her. From elementary school, she wore a key to her home around her neck, managing her own schooling and meals. Her childhood bore little distinction from that of left-behind children whose parents worked far away, until an unexpected upheaval irrevocably altered the course of her life. Her father, caught in fierce commercial competition, became the target of a vengeful rival who hired someone to harm him. Although he survived, he was left with lifelong disabilities. Unable to work again, the pillar of their family had collapsed. To cover the exorbitant medical expenses and sustain their living, her mother was forced to abandon her beloved research career, taking a job at a private tech company. From that moment on, I vowed I would become a police officer. A determined glimmer shone in Su Ning's eyes, starkly contrasting her delicate appearance. "I will capture all the evildoers and punish all injustices. I do not wish to see kind-hearted individuals like my father and mother bullied by wicked people, powerless to fight back." Finishing her beer, a rosy hue spread across Su Ning's cheeks. Turning her head, her beautiful eyes, misty with emotion, gazed quietly at Yi Bai. Her voice laced with a hint of intoxication and fragility. "Struggling alone in the capital is truly exhausting and isolating. I bear everything on my own. Sometimes, I feel as though I can barely hold on." "Yi Bai," she softly called his name, as if expending all her strength. You are my only support here. Seeing the girl before him, stripped of all her strong facades and revealing her most vulnerable self, a fierce protective instinct surged within Yi Bai. He reached out, gently wiping away the tear stains at the corners of her eyes. With me here, you need not fear. These 5 simple words seemed to possess an infinite magic. Su Ning gazed at him, her eyes filled with sincerity and strength, gradually becoming dreamy. The air in the room felt thick at that moment. She slowly leaned toward Yi Bai, her warm, slightly fragrant lips softly pressing against his. In that instant, Yi Bai felt as if his mind had exploded. All the previously suppressed rationality and restraint crumbled in an instant. Unable to contain the fervent fire within, he took the initiative and drew Su Ning into his embrace, deepening their kiss. In the blink of an eye, the buttons of their garments were undone, marking the passage of a night. Su Ning lay peacefully in bed, her long eyelashes fluttering like butterfly wings, her exquisite cheeks still glowing with the enchanting blush of the previous night's passion. The blanket slipped down, revealing her smooth, jade-like shoulders, adorned with crimson marks resembling plum blossoms. Yi Bai sat at the bedside, a cigar held between his fingers, unlit, silently observing her serene features. His gaze filled with a complex mix of emotions. Last night, he acknowledged he had lost control. He had been too forceful, too wild. By the latter part of the night, Su Ning was utterly exhausted, so fatigued that she could hardly move a finger, eventually succumbing to slumber. And she had yet to awaken. His gaze inadvertently fell upon the pristine white sheets, where a stark red stain, reminiscent of blossoming crimson plums, starkly narrated the intensity of their previous night and the girl's first experience. A surge of indescribable tenderness welled up within him. He rose quietly, intending to cover Su Ning with the blanket and discreetly change the sheets. However, as soon as he moved, Su Ning let out a soft whimper and slowly opened her eyes. Upon seeing Yi Bai and the glaring red stain on the sheets, her initially dazed expression transformed into one of clarity, her delicate face flushing a deep red akin to a ripe apple. Instinctively, she pulled the blanket over her head, enveloping herself entirely. Her muffled voice emerged from beneath the covers. Don't look. Yi Bai found her reaction both amusing and endearing. All right, don't hide. You'll suffocate. Get up, and I'll change the sheets. No, don't change them. The voice from beneath the blanket was choked with a hint of tears and overwhelming embarrassment. I don't want to move. It's already bright outside, and I'm shy. Yi Bai felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. Su Ning was not only shy, but also weakened from the previous night's fervor, likely lacking even the strength to rise from the bed. There was nothing he could do but acquiesce. Okay, no changing. You can rest a bit longer. I'll prepare something for you to eat. After ensuring Su Ning was comfortable, Yi Bai made his way to the kitchen. He retrieved various ingredients from the refrigerator, preparing to whip up a sumptuous breakfast. However, instead of immediately cooking, he turned his attention to the system. After last night's myriad events, he hadn't had the opportunity to check the system. Opening the panel, he observed the rapidly fluctuating numbers finally settling, though his heart was not filled with joy. Last night, he had amassed 30 million in shock value. In the past, such a figure would have sent him into a state of euphoria. Yet now, with the staggering 100 million required for the 99A modification, 30 million seemed like a mere drop in the bucket. Adding the previous live streaming and various tasks, his total shock value now exceeded 60 million. He was still nearly 40 million short of his goal. Financial gains were imperative. As he expertly cracked eggs, his mind raced. The development of the fire truck would take several days and could not be monetized in the short term. The analysis of the Chungying mecha would take an entire month, which was equally unhelpful. The most critical aspect was that the Chungying project was classified, making it unlikely to be streamed. Any expenditure of shock value would likely be unrecoverable. Looking at his immediate debts, he felt an overwhelming pressure. Live streaming the modification of the 99A was a monumental task that could not be accomplished overnight. It would be challenging to gather the remaining 40 million solely through live streaming. He needed to devise a plan, a grand project that could swiftly yield an immense amount of shock value, while paving the way for future developments. As he observed the golden-hued fried eggs taking shape in the pan, a bold and audacious idea began to take form in his mind. Chapter 317. The Dragon King Multifunctional Urban Rescue Platform. Yi Bai skillfully cracked the eggs in the kitchen, the golden yolk rapidly solidifying in the hot oil, emitting a sizzling sound and an enticing aroma. Soon, a simple yet lavish breakfast was ready. 2 perfectly fried sunny-side-up eggs, a pot of soft, sweet millet porridge, and several plates of refreshing side dishes. As he set the breakfast on the table, Su Ning finally emerged from her room. clad in an oversized white t-shirt that belonged to Yi Bai. The hem barely concealed the tops of her thighs, revealing a pair of long, straight, porcelain-like legs. The blush on her cheeks had not fully faded, and upon seeing Yi Bai, her gaze flickered. A mixture of shyness and the freshness of a post-rain clarity in her demeanor. The two sat across from each other, silently enjoying breakfast. The atmosphere tinged with an unspoken tension. After a while, Su Ning set down her spoon, lifted her head, and with a hint of curiosity and confusion in her clear eyes, softly asked, Yi Bai, I've always wanted to know why you suddenly decided to modify a police car. To her, Yi Bai was now engaged with the military and national-level projects. With his endeavors encompassing main battle tanks and firefighting mechas, national treasures, it seemed illogical to invest such immense effort and resources into a nearly obsolete police car. Yi Bai took a sip of porridge, looking at her with a smile that conveyed the obvious. Because I saw you struggling at the factory gate last time, and I felt it was only right to offer you some compensation. He paused, setting down his utensils, his expression turning serious as he spoke each word with gravity. Moreover, from the very beginning, I never intended to give that car to anyone else. The night goddess was specifically prepared for you. Boom. As the phrase prepared for you resonated in her ears, Su Ning felt as though her mind had been struck by a thunderbolt, plunging her into a state of blankness. She froze, her beautiful eyes widening in disbelief, her pupils rapidly constricting, her rosy lips parting slightly, yet no words escaped her mouth. Prepared for me? The night goddess. An awe-inspiring vehicle that resembled a futuristic war deity, the ultimate dream car for any police officer, was indeed tailor-made for her from the start. An indescribable, immense warmth surged from the depths of her heart, akin to a flood breaking through a dam, instantly dismantling all her psychological defenses and enveloping her entire being. She gazed at Yi Bai's face, adorned with a gentle smile, his sincere eyes, and her own eyes brimmed with tears, a glistening mist rapidly enveloping her vision. All along, she had fought alone, enduring all the pressure and grievances by herself. She had never imagined that someone would so astutely perceive her struggles, so quietly prepare such an overwhelming surprise for her. She wanted to say something, but her throat felt constricted, choking back her words. Ultimately, all her emotions, all her astonishment, and all her sentiments coalesced into an unyielding vow. She abruptly stood, walked around the table, approached Yi Bai, gazed into his eyes, and earnestly declared, I will strive to do my best. Seeing the unprecedented, fiery determination in her eyes, Yi Bai felt a stirring in his heart. With a smile, he gently pulled her into his embrace. Yet, the next moment, he felt her body grow unexpectedly warm in his arms. The surge of excitement and gratitude, which had only recently been subdued, now intertwined with a profound love, transforming into an uncontrollable impulse. She lifted her gaze, her eyes shimmering with an almost stubborn fervor, eager to devote everything to him, and initiated a kiss. The atmosphere in the room became charged once more. Hours later, Yi Bai gazed helplessly at Su Ning, who had once again curled up under the covers, too exhausted to even move a finger, her large eyes glistening with a plea for mercy. She truly could not comprehend why, despite her unwavering resolve to repay him, she always found herself defeated first. Was this fellow's stamina even human? After ensuring that the utterly drained Su Ning was comfortable, Yi Bai dressed and quietly departed. Upon returning to his high-tech factory located in the outskirts of the capital, he had barely stepped into the control room when the system's notification sound rang out as expected. Ding! The self-developed project has been completed. Congratulations, host. You have successfully developed a new type of firefighting equipment, the Dragon King Multifunctional Urban Rescue Platform. Yi Bai's eyes lit up as he promptly called up the detailed design and module parameters of the Dragon King. Viewing the steel behemoth on the screen, he nodded in satisfaction. Once this creation was unveiled, it would undoubtedly revolutionize the entire firefighting sector, bringing him a plethora of shock value. Now, everything was set. All that remained was to transform it from blueprint to reality. Yi Bai picked up the phone and began contacting various suppliers to procure the necessary special steel, polymer composite materials, and a myriad of precise electronic components. However, with each call he made, he quickly uncovered a vexing issue. Manufacturing such a complex heavy vehicle from scratch was incredibly cumbersome. Not only did the customization of various parts have an astonishingly lengthy procurement cycle, but assembling a complete heavy truck chassis required specialized production lines and large-scale equipment, far beyond what his still under renovation high-tech factory could manage independently. The entire process would take no less than a couple of months, and waiting that long was simply unacceptable. Rubbing his chin, Yi Bai furrowed his brow. He didn't have the luxury of time to waste here. He needed to devise a shortcut. Scanning the control room. He finally picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. Hello, Secretary Dekong. It's me, Yi Bai. Ha ha ha, Comrade Yi Bai. What can I do for you? The voice on the other end brimmed with enthusiasm. Last night, Yi Bai's night goddess had truly made quite the impression, invigorating the entire police system of the Jinghai district. Secretary, I've recently developed a new type of fire truck with remarkable capabilities. However, my current conditions are limited, and I lack a suitable vehicle platform. So I was hoping you could assist me, Yi Bai began. Before he could finish, Secretary Dekong immediately understood and exclaimed, a fire truck? A new fire truck? No problem. Absolutely no